right. So nothing else has changed, right? Everything else is,
Well, right, so nothing else has changed in your book.
thank you. Right, okay. So Kathy, what did you want to do? You want to go just down the list here?
We
and
just went like, moderator, no questions, and we voted it.
If I may just recommend, Mike,
What's that?
for you to just formally open the meeting
I-
and
yeah, I
just,
will.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we do it like by the category.
Hold on one
and
second.
And make sure everyone turns their microphones back on,
Can you
please.
turn on your microphone?
When I'm ready, I'm ready to be on.
So we're gonna, this is a special meeting, is that what, we have a special meeting, we're gonna open it up at 6:31 for budget discussion and finance discussion. So we're gonna go through the omnibus. And what were we saying, Kathy? Now you can turn it on.
We went through it by category, like, moderator, selectmen, finance department. and-
Okay.
And then we dealt with questions or concerns or ideas. So,
Okay,
okay.
is that good with you, Bill? Bill?
Yeah.
Teresa? Joe, all set?
Yes,
Okay.
very good.
All right, so let's start with the moderator. Anybody have any questions for the moderator? That's,
And you'll see, so the finance board actually voted last week, so on the spreadsheet that I've given you, the finance board recommends column, all but one department, they went through and made all their votes, so that's actually what they will be recommending to town meeting
Right.
in those specific line items.
okay. All right, so no question on the moderator then?
Right.
Good? All right, selectmen budget?
Well, the reserve fund, Denise, her recommendation was to increase the reserve fund. We agree. It hasn't been increased in 20 years, we think.
Okay, so you increased that from 20 to 25?
Right, it's one of those items that you probably want to increase a little bit each year because it hasn't been increased in so long.
Right, normal municipal budgets our size, their reserve fund's about $100,000, which allows the finance board to cover any unexpected,
Like snow and ice?
yeah, any unexpected line items or purchases or unforeseen expenses, things
Well,
like that.
Anything catastrophic that would happen that's unforeseen, but right now, you'd have to call a town meeting. We only have $20,000 to do that with,
Okay.
yes. And it requires your approval too,
Right.
right? So,
Any questions on that, Bill?
Say that again now? You lost me.
We increased it, well, they increased it from 20 to 25,000, the reserve fund.
Right, and that's for the, that's only for snow and ice?
No, it's for anything.
That's
Right, but I'm
unforeseen. It's
saying-
not snow and ice at all. Snow and
Right,
ice
okay.
has its own law.
So that allows the finance board, with the approval of selectmen, to transfer from that account to
Okay,
cover
yeah.
unforeseen
All
expenses.
right, no, I heard snow and ice, so that,
I
I'm
said
good with
snow and
that.
ice.
Right.
Bill?
I'm good with that. That's,
And you guys are, I'm assuming you're all good with that too?
Yeah, these are, for us, these are voted items.
Okay.
Except for one department, we voted on everything we're presenting here tonight.
Good, all right.
now, admin assistant salary. And that kind of goes in hand with
Treasury collection clerk.
treasury collection clerk, assistant treasury collection clerk.
No, not assistant.
Oh, no.
Treasury collection clerk and the admin assistant are the same person.
Different line item.
She performs, she works out of
Yeah,
both offices.
Different buckets.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that. Oh, okay. So. Now, can I just ask a question? Real simple, I hope. It seems like we're locked in at 2% for everybody. Is there a way, let's face it, let's be honest, right? Not everybody deserves 2%. Some people deserve more, some people deserve less. Is there any way we can change that without, upsetting the whole apple cart? Because it seems to me that, we should be rewarding good behavior somehow, and then, somehow give some negative reinforcement to some maybe not so good behavior, right? But right now, 2%, what's the incentive for anybody to work hard? I'm gonna get the same thing whether I work really hard all year long, or whether I kinda sleep through the whole year.
So if I can respond to that just initially, The difficulty with that, though, is you do not have one authority overseeing all employees. Right now, you have employees answering to elected boards and committees, you have employees that fall under a department head, you have employees that fall under the Board of Selectmen. There's no one authority that can actually equally rank everybody and give a fair performance evaluation. If you ask department heads and boards and committees to evaluate their staff, you know, you may have an elected board and committee that thinks their staff is absolutely fantastic because they're only dealing with them. You may have another board and committee that thinks, their staff might not be as great. But they all do the same amount of work. It's just because these elected officials come in once a month, once every other month to meet. So until you really restructure and have somebody overseeing all collective employees, it's just not fair to do that.
Who would
Because
that
there's
be?
not a fair and equitable way to assess everybody.
How do we
Would
get to
that
that
be?
point?
You need a town manager.
All right.
Right, I think, if
So
I could.
another good reason.
Right, so if I
For
could
sure.
just speak to that, and, you know, a town administrator or a town manager, whatever the town size requires. But you could start to implement a simple review system for the personnel that you have in order to document people that you think are doing a good job. I think everybody likes to get feedback from the person in charge. And I think, you know, you could set a role here, be a role model, and do that. But I don't see that you can implement a different raise amount right now with the structure we have in place.
I like that.
Right,
Yeah.
but the board, it's tough for them to evaluate because they don't deal with the
'Cause we're
employees
here
on a
every other
day-to-day
week,
basis.
for the
So
most
they
part.
couldn't really evaluate, other than me, who I work with, all of them, they don't really evaluate or work with other
Okay,
employees
but it's
that
just-
fall under their
It's
control.
just a thought for the summertime
Yeah.
when there's not as much to do.
If I can add also, in the review that we did, you know, certainly anybody would want more pay, but there wasn't a tremendous amount of pressure from any department that said, we really need a lot more money because of the work that people are doing. I found that the process was really collaborative, number one. Number two, let's not forget that we as a finance committee, do aim to present the budget that comes in within Proposition 2.5. That's 2.5%. And then the third thing is, you know, some things are higher than 2%. I mean, there are some contracts, collective bargaining.
By contractual obligation.
But if we go down that road of merit-based pay, even with a town manager, it's going to take a few years for us to work out a system and stay within 2.5%. Unless we're going to be going to overrides or asking people for more money, at the taxpayers more money, because we want to give certain people 5% raises.
Well, I think the instance he's talking about, not to drag this out, is that, you know, we give you 2.5%, and we give Kathy nothing. It's still 2.5%.
I would agree, that's a good move.
Right, I mean, either way, it's
I
still
like that.
2.5.
No,
But
that is
I don't
the
know.
ultimate puzzle, is
Right.
how I offset it. So somebody will get 3, but somebody will get 1, or
Right.
whatever, yeah. But a town manager can oversee it. Merit-based pay can only be done if you have someone in charge of
Right.
But if
everybody.
you had a town manager or a town administrator,
Yeah.
that person would sit down with those department heads before budget season would come up. The town manager would sit, say, with the water department head. He'd talk to her or him, review all their pay raises, what quality work they've done throughout the year. They'd come up with a plan, and they'd talk about it, and then that department head would end up doing his budget. So it is a big role, and I don't mean doing his budget, but coming up with the numbers he needed, according to what the men or women that work for him deserved.
Yeah.
But right now, we don't have that. In this town, we don't. We don't have that government, that layer of government.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there wasn't any, I didn't experience anybody pounding the table.
No.
We need
I mean-
big increases for anybody, so.
I mean, if I could, honestly, there's just only a few people that fall into the category you're speaking about right
Yeah.
now. And to present something like that at a town meeting kind of forum and try to explain why one person's getting 3 or 4%, another person's getting 1%, I think is a tough sell. Our form of government, you know, is easiest or most transparent at town meeting when you explain the contracts negotiation, the union negotiation, and then all others.
I think you'd need a full salary and classification
we don't have
review and a
this.
plan
We're-
that puts
we're
everybody into a
miles away.
grade and gives everyone a ranking, and then you can move them
We're
with that.
miles.
And I can agree with everything you said, but on the flip
Yeah.
side of that coin, it almost seems like there's a sense of entitlement. I'm entitled to 2%. No matter what the economy is, no matter how good the town is doing, no matter how bad the town is, no matter how good business is, no matter how bad business is, I'm entitled to 2%.
Yeah.
There's a sense of entitlement here.
Could I respond to that? I mean, I was on the finance committee years ago, 20 years ago, and we went through some very difficult times, and town employees didn't get 2%. And
How long ago was that?
it's like 20 years ago. Yeah.
20 years?
Yep.
And since
so-
then, we've had it.
If I could finish, thanks. And my sense when the people came before us both last year and this year is, I didn't come away from the budget meetings with a sense that people felt entitled to the 2%. They were following the directive to keep their budget in line, and most of our discussion within different various budgets was simply about, a lot of these offices are one-person offices, and, you know, how do you juggle that, and do we need part-time help? And we spent more time on that than anybody telling us that they were entitled to 2%. No one said that to us at budget meetings, not a single department that I remember. You correct me if I'm wrong, and they didn't do it last year either. Last year, in fact, we came forward and wanted to do the 2%. It was from the finance board. So I just don't see that sense when they're meeting with us, the departments, I mean, everybody we've met with, they've been very forthcoming, and they've tried to accommodate our scheduling as best they can, and we're thankful that they're willing to meet with just a bunch of townspeople like us and let us ask questions about their budgets.
And I'm not going to disagree with anything you say,
Yep.
but I don't think I would go into any meeting with the statement that I'm entitled to 2%. I just think it's just a philosophy, it's just something.
So was there anything else to do with the assistant treasurer collector salary,
No,
other than the 2% question?
Well, it's my understanding that that role has taken on greater responsibility and duties in the last year from other departments, and is that not my understanding?
No.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I was under the impression that role had been expanded a little bit by taking on more duties and responsibilities from other departments. No?
I think maybe
If I'm
you're
wrong,
thinking of the
I'm wrong.
treasurer collection clerk, not the assistant treasurer collection clerk, is that what you're thinking of?
No.
No? Well, I don't know what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm going to talk, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, I could be mistaken.
Okay, so we're under finance department.
right. And you can see our recommendations.
Yeah.
What you don't see there, and we did have kind of a long discussion, was whether or not there was a feasible way to have a floating clerk that would help out, not just that department, but there were several others. And we went around the circle on this, and the consensus at the end was, much as we wish that we could make this work, with the water and sewer department moving out of the building and with a separate board in charge of that. They were one of the people that wanted part-time help. Town clerk wanted part-time help. You know, any office that's one person, I would foresee, could probably use a coverage now and then when they're sick or when they're out on vacation. But we went around on it, and we couldn't come to a way to make it feasible, to make it work. I guess that was it. We weren't sure that all of the elected boards would be able to work together, and that how would this clerk get scheduled, and so we did try. We did discuss it for a while, and we just couldn't come up with a solution.
So that's not a line item in here, right?
No, that's why it would be
It
in
would
there
be.
if we were able to come up with something that could work, and we couldn't.
Is it just because of the scheduling and reporting and,
Well,
because
yeah.
that would change weekly, I would assume, right? If you had a person in here that,
Well, the original concept was to hire somebody for like a consistent 15, 19 hours a week.
Right.
to
The
float around every office, depending
Right,
on
the
what
struggle
need is.
becomes, as Kathy just articulated, you know, with the water department gonna be in a completely separate building.
Yeah.
In the summer, people are on vacation at the same time, so you have maybe elected boards overseeing departments that want this person for 10 hours a week, but someone else wants them 10 hours a week, and I think we needed to work out some of those specifics before we move forward with bringing in a person, and then making sure we have a consistent 19 hours or 15 hours every single week for someone to do something, because
Right.
we do have, it is very cyclical here. You know, there are months that it's very quiet throughout all the offices, and then we have the same months are busier. So I think it's, you know, maybe next year we'll be ready for that, when we really work out how it's gonna work and how we'll
Right.
schedule that one person amongst many different departments.
That was the thing, we just, you know, as we went through the budgets, we saw that the request for part-time clerical help, we kept thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe we could pull this all together, but we just don't have the time right now before the town meeting to make.
So
figure
when
this
I,
out.
when I went over and met with the selectmen in West Newbury, how they cured that problem is
Yeah.
they hired an administrative assistant, and when they got their new town manager coming on in July, that person sits at an office at the front door of the town hall,
Okay.
greets the people, answers any questions, and then if they need a fill-in, that person goes and fills in offices. And
Interesting.
but that was in the process of turning their town into a town manager, and they appropriated the money through the new budget season.
Yeah.
The first year, they actually took money from the free cash to take care of the town manager and this person, but,
One more thing, and this is something that the Board of Selectmen is gonna have to address, and we recommend that you consider addressing it sooner rather than later. And I'll be right up front. With the water department, when they leave here, and if services are provided in another building, if we apply a part-time person over there, they're not gonna be bonded. They're gonna be bonded here if they're in this building on campus, but not if they go to, outside of this
That's a
town
big
hall.
concern.
That's another issue.
Why is that?
Because they collect money.
So if I'm collecting money, if I'm gonna fill in for Pat, she's
Yeah.
going away on a 2-week vacation. First of all, how do I fill 80 hours if Pat goes,
Right,
and she needs, we would say, you know, she hasn't gone on vacation a long time, you know, extended vacation, because there's no coverage. How's a 15-hour person
cover 80 hours.
cover 80 hours? Number one. Number two, that person can't collect money, handle money if they're outside this building. We did not vote on it, but the consensus of this committee is that all services should be delivered here on campus.
The money collection, yeah, that is.
So would that be a problem for the water department?
Yes.
If they're operating out of that building, but the bills and money is transferred over here?
You have to take that up with them, but it's
Yeah.
something that needs to be managed and
Okay.
discussed. That's really important. We
And-
we don't want to see people leaving this building, because it's going to cause liabilities,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to cause insurance issues, bonding issues, and service issues. People are going to get confused. Where do I pay a bill? Where do I get a service?
Right. Okay.
We're trying to, what we really want to do as a town, and we talked about this, didn't vote on it, consensus, we need to have a customer service desk here in Town Hall. One-stop shop, find all my services.
Is that Denise right now?
That's Denise
Well,
right now.
in other words, to be able to pay all your bills.
Right.
Plus
Right.
janitorial.
Right.
But that would be
Right.
nice.
Custodian.
Right, so it'd be
You know.
services and taxes get
Well,
paid
that's
here.
almost what Bill described in
Right.
West
Yep,
Newbury.
that's- And also, they were saying that a lot of department heads aren't in their offices or not here, whatever. And this person, a person coming to town hall would go to this person and say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of the planning board, or I'm trying to get a hold of the conservation. They're not here, but I'll take a message and I'll get it to them. And again, what you just said, they would
Yeah.
handle the money and what have you. So it was kind of like a one-stop front door. They don't go out behind the town hall unless someone's in the building they had to meet with. So
Right. So the water and sewer commissioners were open to the idea of sharing in support clerical services if we ever brought them here, but then when we went further and Denise brought up the bonding issue, that's when we realized we hit a real roadblock, because they wouldn't, if they're not in this building, the town's not covered, and I don't know if that conversation has occurred within the water and sewer commissioners. But that didn't occur when they were before us, this occurred after they had left, else
Right.
we would have brought it to them.
Right.
So,
Okay.
you guys are in charge, you could do it.
So we'll support you on that if you'd
We're
like
giving
to.
you a task.
As a committee, we'll support you in those discussions going forward if you'd like. You know, we're advocating for those ideas, but it's not our authority. We
Right.
can only advise you.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else on finance department?
no,
No, Bill?
No.
Okay. Town accountant. This looks like,
So town accountant, the salary is lower than
Yeah.
it was. We changed the hours.
right,
And I think I mentioned at the last meeting, our accountant now attends the annual training, so she is aiming
Right.
towards becoming a certified Mass Municipal Accountant. So that's why we have an education line that didn't previously exist. And same thing with office expenses, you know, she now has some expenses related to performing the duties of that job. So overall, the budget is down, but that's why you'll see a decrease in the salary.
Down is good. Bill, anything on that? What's that? Bill,
No, good.
you guys have any other comments on?
No.
Okay. Board of Assessors. Stipends, salary.
I think everything requested was recommended for the Board of Assessors.
What is the software and licenses? I mean, I know what it is, but is it just like a Windows?
It's their assessing database, so it's a SQL server.
Oh, they have their own SQL server for that? Okay.
Yep, and then the maps are also, it covers the map updates for her office and also the Merrimack Valley planning updates to our GIS system. Falls under
Okay.
that line.
Any questions on that, Bill? Bill?
No, good.
Town Council, one of my favorites. So, let's see, last year we had 40,000 appropriated. We spent almost 80.
Yep.
And this year we have 65 appropriated.
Yep, but I can tell you, we are actually doing quite well this year, surprisingly. Let me tell you where we are as of right now.
Still like to recoup some of that.
So right now, we've spent
Cost of doing business.
31,000. So we're we're 8 months into the fiscal year, almost 9, and we've only spent half the budget. And I just got the most recent bill, and it was actually only $3,000 for the month of February, which we had some significant expenses in the month of February, and that's all it amounted to. So we're actually doing quite well in our legal account this year.
But we cleaned up a lot of litigation that was out there, big litigation that's finally been cleaned up, and that's
Yep.
why it's going down.
Yep. And most of the land issues, the land swap, the land sale, things like that are all winding down as well. So those are all coming to an end as well. Positively, they're all coming to an end.
Good.
What about any ongoing litigation?
I'm not aware of any other than zoning. The only ongoing litigation we have are zoning related. And those are all still ongoing.
But that's in the past, it's not new
No,
litigation.
It's not new, but they're
this is
still going on.
ongoing.
Right, ongoing, but not
Right.
new.
No, nothing
Right,
new.
not
No.
Right.
But
Correct, nothing new.
if I could, we picked that $65,000 number the last time around by kind of looking at, what was it, 5 years that we looked at? And so what
Was
we're.
it the
rec-
average over the 5 years?
Was it the
No,
average?
the highest.
Well, pretty much. According to town council, that's really where a municipality our size would be in expenses. So,
And- Right, we looked at where, they had gotten a low year and they trimmed it back, and then it goes, so we didn't want to see that yo-yo thing going on. Rather have a number that we kind of settle around, and in a year where there's more problems, if you want to call it that, if the reserve fund were a little more funded, you'd be able to access that, but you can also, isn't legal, you can spend, right? If you
Yeah,
have to.
can we access that if we're under $10,000? How do we appropriate that towards something else that we may need?
yes, so, well, I wouldn't touch that until the end of the year.
That's
So
what I
when-
mean, if
right,
there's money
At the
left
end of
over
the year,
in
when we're
that.
doing that year-end
Oh,
shuffle,
yes.
Yeah.
we
Yep.
would use those
We can use
funds.
those
Okay.
funds.
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't, even though we're trending well, I still wouldn't touch it.
No.
When you see the special town meeting transfers, it's not one of them just because. But yes, at the end of the year, we could move from that, transfer from that line.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to reiterate, the 65 is a 5-year average. We also, with the town council, as Kathy said, they established that as a good trend line.
Okay.
We feel there's a little bit of a margin in there. And strategically, the discussion about a town administrator, town manager, that should also put downward pressure on legal fees.
Right. No, I like the standard number of 65. I just want to know if we're able to get to that.
And
as
don't
far
be
as moving
surprised
around
if we're
at the end
not
of the year.
growing that by 2%.
Right.
That could be flatlined for quite a while,
Well,
if we're fortunate.
let's hope
Keep
so.
our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what the high point in the 5 years was? Was it the 79,860?
I think we've seen a higher.
It may have been the year before that, but that's when they were really redoing the zoning bylaws
Yeah.
and spending a lot of town council money on the zoning bylaws.
A lot of phone time.
Yep.
Now, Sam's working on planning?
What's that?
Jocelyn is working on rewriting
The zoning.
Yeah, so that they formed a committee of 2 planning board members, 2 zoning board members, and Sam, to look at, so on the town meeting warrant, there are 4 zoning articles that they all work together. Town council had provided some comments, actually not much, because Sam is actually very articulate when it comes to writing the bylaws. So they're looking, so now that we have the reorg, they're taking sections by section and really looking at them and comparing them to the communities. So every town meeting, you should see a few articles from them to just make our zoning a little bit better and allow for more business and allow for, by rights, some things to the residents that they don't have right now, you have to go to zoning. So they're working on fixing a lot of those issues.
Now, is there gonna be a lot of legal costs associated with those updates and?
Nope, because it really took council minimal time to do the 4 of them that he had. So he reviewed them, read them, made a few changes, and sent them back. It did not take much time at all.
All set?
Yeah.
Technology?
So the increase of the technology line is primarily because we put our financials in the cloud. So the additional cost under hardware maintenance and licensing is the
Mhm.
license for a cloud-based solution.
Where is the line item for the servers and stuff that we transferred?
That's not in the general fund budget, that's
Okay.
under cable line.
But that's going, right? Did you get the new stuff yet?
No, I need a one more vote.
Just a quick question, and I didn't get it out last meeting, but we're talking about radios and we're talking about a lot of equipment for the fire department, police department. There's no other money that can be used, like we found that extra money out of the communication line to do that?
If you guys want to keep using the cable line, we talked about that before. If you want to use the cable line for stuff like that.
Do we know how
The
much is in
purpose
there
of the
now?
cable line,
Well, it's cable and technology, I think it's
Right,
labeled.
that's what I'm
As
saying.
of now, it's labeled as that.
Right, under our contract, it's cable or technology,
And what's
correct?
that?
I'd have to look, but as soon as, let me see, I don't know
I
if I
think
have
you
our
told me
revenue.
last week or 2 weeks ago there was another.
Well, we got
deposit
another
into
like
that.
$27,000 that came in, so we get about $30,000 a quarter coming
Okay.
in from that line.
in the total amount of money we were looking for those radios this time around was like 85, was it, or something, 80?
Well, it depends, if you
No, it was
can,
$100
no.
for, $100,000 for
Yeah.
something and
Well,
50,000
if you
for
take
Micro.
out the radio system, because the radio system is what the fire department wants for $100,000. The highway and the police radios combined, I think, is $60,000 in total for both of their radios.
Yeah, highway was 19 and change.
So it might even
So
be
if we
less,
didn't-
because
if
it
we
might even be
didn't-
like 40,000.
This is
If
not
we didn't
this.
nail,
Yeah, 40.
and we took maybe the
Police
60
is
from
20.
that line, and
Yeah,
then,
40,000.
or whatever, I mean,
I think, Bill, if I could, I don't think you should be worried about how to pay for it. I think we should be more concerned about making sure we're buying the right things. Okay, and I don't know that we've reached that point yet in that particular item. I'm hoping we'll get to a discussion of that.
Is that in here?
It's an article, it's not in
Okay.
here, yeah.
After the omnibus, we're
Yeah.
gonna go through
Yes.
the articles.
Yep.
Okay.
So
You-
that's what I'm hoping.
You mean the radio specific to the fire department? Is that what you're
I'm talking about the whole capital proposal,
okay, well,
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
okay.
But at some point, I do want to know what's in that line, or that account.
Yeah, I'll look
It
it
doesn't
up
have
while
to
you
be right
guys
this
are.
second, but I do
Okay.
want to
I'll
have
look
an
it up while
idea.
you guys are doing that.
While we're doing that
All
much.
right,
Town
so,
clerk.
technology, everybody's good with that?
We got the cloud. See it?
All right, and then town clerk,
Yes, so we realized there wasn't enough money for one election in the budget, so we put that money in. And we had discussion, again, it goes back to this issue of a floating clerk. But we also discussed the senior work-off program, which is vastly underutilized, and we're hopeful that an article is coming forward.
There's an article.
Okay, to make it more open to people. We feel like there was a lot of restrictions put in the senior work-off program that may be prohibiting people who would otherwise have
What type of
volunteered.
restrictions?
Well, one of them was you had to live in town 10 years, and, you know, some older people might say, well, in 10 years, I might not. Yes, okay, so you see my point, and I'm trying to think of some of the other restrictions. We said, obviously, you know, go to the people that have income need first, but if nobody's coming forward and somebody wants to do it and they meet the age requirement, why wouldn't we allow them to help out the town by working for us? Denise, do you remember the others? It was the residency, the income, and, was there another thing?
No, I think those are the only two things they removed for the restriction.
Oh, I thought there was one more, but it's escaping my mind. The whole point was the Council on Aging was very, very open to opening the program up and getting the, hopefully encouraging participation. And the town clerk's office was perhaps one area where that could be utilized.
So
So-
in that,
So
in
we
that
didn't.
line,
Right.
you fixed the need for more poll workers for
Yes.
that other election.
And the other election expense as well. See the change there in
Yep.
election expense? Yes.
Okay.
Because we started sitting there counting the elections. Realized we needed to add more money there.
Okay, how many elections did you plan for?
I think it's 4, right?
Right. 3 were requested, but there's 4 elections.
There are 4,
Yes.
even with the proposed change that we now probably expect from our last meeting.
Yeah, it's still gonna be an election.
It's gonna be
So
an-
there's the state primary, the state election, the special school election, and then the town election are the 4 elections that'll be in next year's fiscal
4.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It'll still fall within the fiscal year.
Yep, so we just won't have it in November, we'd have it in
Right.
February or
It's gonna
March
move.
instead.
What's up with that, Bill?
Yep.
All set?
Yeah.
Conservation Commission. So,
Very straightforward.
what's that?
Very straightforward.
Yeah, I don't have.
Well, theirs is a little, so they pay the majority of their budget with fees.
Right.
Right. they
So
do.
there are 2 warrant articles, one to transfer about 13,000 and change to cover their part-time salary line, and then actually have to increase it in the warrant. The one you have has the incorrect number, because we changed that last week. So I think it's like 4,500 from their fees line into their expense line. So this is only the remainder after they move their fees. So it's a very little, really just stipends and a small expense amount that comes from the general fund.
What's up with that? Bill?
Good.
All right, planning.
So planning, I don't know if you want to hold and come back to,
You want to hold and come back? Yeah, let's hold and come back if you don't mind.
because I
There's
think
a-
we'll have, I think we'll get into a little more discussion about the town planner position, because a few things have come up that we can toss around.
Okay, yes, we have some news, I hope, some good news, we'll see. But let's go back to that. So do zoning, if it's okay.
Yeah,
And we'll loop back.
zoning Board of Appeals, that's really minimal.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions on that?
And so the zoning board, just so you know why the finance board chose to recommend a lesser amount than what they were requesting, is, I don't know if you remember last year, they were going through a transition where they were not charging their revolving fund for all of their application charges. They were paying advertising costs and costs of Julie doing the minutes out of the general fund, which shouldn't happen. All of the fees associated with producing minutes, legal ads that have to do with an application need to come out of the applicant's fees under their revolving account. So this current year, their budget's $4,000, they've only spent about $800, because it's only the minimal amount of really Julie's hours when she comes in here and covers Monday nights that they're charging to the general fund. So they really don't need 4,500, because if they don't have applications, they don't meet, they don't have minutes, they don't, everything really should be based on their application fees. So that's why the recommendation was less than what they requested.
Okay. Municipal buildings?
So we have the custodian is the big change in there, and I
Right.
think the finance board supported that, and,
Do we have coverage on that? Custodian?
what do you
For
mean?
the,
Coverage right now, you
Yeah.
mean? I have a contracted service.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
coming in.
okay.
And I'm trying to think, there was one. Was there one other item?
They'll be good for a period of time doing that?
Yeah, so, so he actually
Yeah,
works at
there's one.
Pentucket, and he's coming in here around his Pentucket schedule. He works full-time there,
Oh.
though, so he understands that either until town meeting comes and we know if it's gonna be supported full-time or part-time. The hope would then be to post it and have someone ready for July 1st.
Right.
Can take your attention also the public relations
Yes,
line?
thank you, Joe.
Go
I
ahead,
was looking for that.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, that's the John Guilford moving into a central location so it can be used by all the departments. And so that the information flow would go through you to some degree, so that you're putting out information. And so the cost is there in your budget.
What was
One
it
more time?
before?
So right
It was
now.
split up in pieces
Right.
all over the
Right.
place.
It's $2,388 that the fire department pays, the police department pays, and the water and sewer pay. The water and sewer will continue because they have a separate enterprise
Yeah.
fund. But you'll see when we go through the police line and the fire department line, their expense line that covered that cost is lowered by the $2,388. And then he gave us an additional cost to add the town services. So if
Yeah.
any town department, if we were running something at the library, if the selectmen, we wanted to put out Pumpkin Fest, if the Council on Aging had a good program they wanted to put out, he's getting about 5,000 to 7,000 subscribers to our material. So he really is a great avenue. I know, sometimes people question the need for him, but we don't have newspaper coverage, we don't have any other way to
Right.
get material out. He's sort of an impartial, or should be an impartial third party, putting out our information just in a better format that has more attention to it. So this would centralize a contract for all the town departments, and then have sort of a point of contact. So people can't just send out whatever they want. If it's an emergency, the plan would be that police and fire still have the right to send out
Right.
emergency notices if we're looking for a
Completely.
suspect, or if there's a fire, things like that. But any sort of townwide public relations or stuff like that would be approved before it's sent out.
But in
Approved by
27
you guys.
In 2017, we appropriated 104,000 for that, and we only spent,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No, no, you're
on
on the
wrong
utilities
line.
oh, I'm
line.
That's-
sorry,
That's
okay.
all right. Yeah, this is a new
Oh,
line.
Public
okay. I
relations
thought
is
that was
new.
the-
No.
I thought that was all
No,
together.
this
All right,
is-
so
this-
7,200, that
this is
sounds better.
towards,
I'm like, that
sen-
sounds crazy.
And this is a step
It would've
towards
Yes,
I was like,
104,000.
How do you get to that? All right, good.
a lot of public
Right, I mean,
relations.
that's a,
Can I also, Kathy, can you explain the repairs and maintenance line? That also, that's kind of a sizable jump too.
Well, I mean, we need to have the right amount of money to keep
Yeah.
things fixed. We're hoping with the new facilities manager custodian that that won't be used up as much, but we haven't seen that yet, right?
Right, so
So,
as,
yeah.
as you guys have heard me say, it costs a lot of money to maintain these buildings.
It does.
To get light bulbs changed by electricians with a ballast, I pay prevailing wage. Every time, this morning, there was no heat in the police station, they went down there, tried the boilers, had to call the plumbers on an emergency call.
Right.
It adds up. Those are just sort of the routine maintenance, not counting when the fire alarm panels go and,
Yeah.
everything else. They're
Yeah.
just expensive buildings to maintain,
We,
because they've been sort of let go and we're reactive and not proactive, so.
So we jumped over when I was talking about the actual person. So we're gonna go for a full-time person.
That's what the
Yes.
finance board has
Okay.
supported.
Yes.
As I've said, would that person be able to do anything else on any buildings in town? Like,
Right, small repairs.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's still, right now with 19 hours a week, there's a lot that's not getting done. So we still have to make sure that all of the 5 buildings are maintained.
right, but
and
once
then
he
be
gets
able
that
to.
caught up, then
Yep.
maybe he could move on to like different things, like we have the pavilion, we have downtown that, whatever you call it, in the square.
Gazebo?
What is it?
Gazebo.
Yeah,
The
gazebo,
yeah.
stuff like that needs to have constant maintenance of, not every day maintenance, but once a year, every couple of years, would he be able to take care of that kind of stuff?
would that-
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point it may be that then you have, maybe we get into the point that we're hiring like maybe a carpenter type person as well, on
Yeah,
a
I'm
part-time
talking painting
basis.
and maintenance though, is what I'm talking, you know what I mean, like,
We're thinking like minor maintenance, yes, any large jobs, no, because this
no,
one
no, no, I'm not
individual is
talking about
taking
changing
care
the
of
roof,
all
I'm
the
talking about
buildings.
like,
We're
if,
talking cleaning the buildings, cutting the grass, getting the supply stock, fixing things that break, that's small, that's manageable. Right now, you're paying your finance director
No, I
to do some of
understand all
these
that.
tasks, and that's a huge waste of tax dollars.
Right, and then we have the highway that's maintaining the grounds, so this person would maintain the grounds for
Right,
this
no,
whole complex, yep.
Yeah,
I get that, I'm just
Yeah,
trying.
no, I know what you're saying, I just don't know how much, I mean, really, 40 hours is really not a lot when you think of the buildings that need maintenance. So, yes, if there's a couple hours here and there that they can, because the goal is gonna be, whenever we have bathrooms at the Pines, someone's gonna need to clean those.
Right, that's what I'm getting
Whenever we
to.
have,
What
we have
about-
trash
Whenever.
that, We have trash that piles up down there.
Don't
I
say
mean, no one goes down there, bless you. You know, so the goal would be, but even then, I
What
think
about
40
when
hours is gonna be
the,
stretching it.
The water department moves down into School Street, would they be going over there to clean that
Nope.
building too?
Nope, but if we build a senior center, they would, because that's covered by the general fund budget.
Right. All the.
Water,
general
the
fund
water and
budget.
sewer is an enterprise fund. If they
Right.
wanna pay for a custodian or sharing our custodian. But again, in 40 hours, I don't think we can add an additional building.
Okay.
So this position would be taking on all the benefits and everything with it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think your $40,000 for R&M is out of line either, because
No, it's.
if you're gonna add these hours, you're gonna to be starting to get the things you haven't been able to get to in months or weeks or years, so
No.
that's
Right.
probably gonna be right in line with the things you're gonna find and need to be
Yeah.
repaired.
Right, and I would say, just even little stuff, the front doors around the library and the police station, they're all rusting.
Yeah, that's the one
We don't need
problem.
to bring someone to scrape it, paint it down. We had, our prior facilities guy was doing those types of things when he had hours here and there, but, we just, now we're behind again in cleaning, and now the buildings are really not in great shape. They're starting to get that way now with our new contracted services, but we need to get back to a point that the buildings are clean, there's minimal work that you need to do every day on a cleaning basis, and then you can start working on the facility side. That's what we've been lacking.
All right, anything else in,
No,
if you have a question?
no, but I mean, would that person be able to fix boilers and the stuff that we just talked
No,
about?
I mean, not
that's
at
more
$18
So
an hour.
that's-
They can do, but see, the
Small
difference is, though,
things.
they could be the people that call Burke, that stand down in the basement with them. Right now, that's all me.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So they could be the point person to triage and
Right, I'm
walk
just-
around with the alarm testing people.
I'm trying to have the convean so people watching this understand, because when it gets to the town
Right.
meeting floor, you're jumping up a good
Yep.
amount of money, and we might as well let the people understand it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
No, the hope would be that they could do minor plumbing, fix the faucet, unclog the toilet, replace the ballast, those, like, minor work.
Right, right.
Anything more significant, they would be the point person to sort of track
Manage
it.
it. Manage it.
Have a maintenance plan on when the stuff is, the air filters haven't been changed since I first came here, stuff like that.
Right.
We just need someone to sort of put a plan together and keep a list of maintenance.
And would put that job out to bid or whatever.
Yeah,
type
it would be
thing.
posted.
Right, okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing you should understand too is, we should gain some efficiencies from this seat over there.
Right, no,
by
I agree,
relieving
I agree,
her of-
100%.
So we're gonna gain something too,
Yep.
a lot,
That's a good point.
I would think.
Yep.
Well, I might gain my free time back, because right now I'm here 60 hours a week.
Yeah,
You
but
pay
you're-
me for 37.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, now you'll be able to be more focused on your position and less distracted by these
Right.
Yes.
distractions.
Right.
So it
Correct.
should make you more efficient.
Correct.
And by means the whole
Right.
Right.
town will be.
She's fielding too many calls, yeah. We need.
Wearing too many
someone-
hats.
Yeah. too many hats,
Absolutely.
Right.
All right, so we're good with the
Yep.
buildings then? All right, so on to public safety and the police department?
You skipped
Insurance.
I
insurance.
did.
Yeah, he
How
How
wanted
can I
to.
skip
It
insurance?
just went up a tad. And that's, we expected that.
Right, so the insurance line includes VZ because if they don't pay for it, we need to. So I need to be
Right.
able to budget for it if we're gonna cover that cost. It's a town building under our tax ID number. So you guys can continue to have that discussion with conservation, but we need to have money available because I'm covering the cost for it right now.
Right, we need to
So-
insure town buildings.
And we've had the conversations, but they're really gone nowhere at this point.
Okay.
They still have no plan whatsoever on how to recoup some of this cost.
No, not unless they have money at the end of the year. They'll pay for a installment. So I had to budget for the additional 14,000.
They'd have more flea markets.
Anything else? Bill?
I'm good.
Bill?
What can I say?
Yeah, not much else you can do with it. Now we can move on to public safety. All right, police department.
Contracted raises.
Yep,
Yep, so the major change, though, is the sergeant's line and the patrolman's line.
yep.
So last year, the contract was settled after the budget was finalized, and we promoted a patrolman up to sergeant. So
Right.
one of the transfers for the special town meeting is to move those funds, and then this is just to realign them. And then I think the only other change is in the expense line. The recommendation is $2,388 less, which is the John Guilfoyle PR
Right,
cost.
that's the number at 3,782 versus the 6,150. That's why that's less, the recommendation is less, because we've moved the public,
Right, and police and fire, we're
PR
very
to the-
supportive of that.
yep,
Okay.
no complaints.
The training cost stayed the same?
The,
No, no,
the
no, okay,
salary
yeah, yeah.
training line is
Yeah,
increasing.
all right, no, never mind.
But vehicle maintenance is relatively the same.
Yes, I think he touched on that a little bit the other night,
Yeah.
that it's a
But
little,
those vehicles seem to be
Yeah,
much
it's-
more reliable than those old
Correct.
Chryslers. Those were just,
they're not as expensive to maintain.
God.
We have a harbor master still?
So we have Doc Masters, and we use Haverhill as our harbor master.
Why is there two training lines?
Because one is salary training, when we pay
And one is expensive.
employees to be trained,
Mhm.
and then the other one is when we send them to a program, we have to pay the fee of the
Okay.
program. You'll see the same in the fire department line
Okay.
as well.
Just asking.
So you'll see that's about a 2% increase overall in that $1.4 million budget,
It's not bad.
which is amazing.
Okay. Any questions from you, Bill?
Nope.
Bill?
No.
Parking clerk. What is that?
Ed Reed is our parking clerk.
He is?
Yes,
Really?
yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's
You
I
can't,
know, I mean, it's nothing, but I didn't even know that
you will
existed.
not get a ticket fixed in Groveland.
You better not give me a ticket, I see him all the time.
We
No.
budgeted $100 for that.
Where does he do that?
Really,
He
if.
doesn't do it on Gardner Street, I know that.
No, it's mostly wintertime, if someone's parking in a snow emergency or things like that.
Really?
He really doesn't issue many, and he never submits any reimbursement unless he needs to order ticket books.
Was that on the budget last year too?
Yeah, we've had it.
Yep.
I've never seen anybody get a ticket. I don't know.
I was gonna ask, where would I be most likely to get a ticket,
Right in
parking
front of his
ticket?
house.
In Groveland. Yeah, yeah.
There you go, test the system.
We should go park our cars in front of his house, see if
Okay.
we get a
Yeah.
ticket.
We did not vote on fire department yet, because that was still,
In flux, to
yes,
say the least.
yes, we were trying to, just, not to drag it out, but just to encapsulate what we were trying to come to. We spent 45 minutes with them, trying to, Denise looking up last year's costs. We were trying to put the right amount of money in the equipment maintenance, because we know that's not right. Trying to make sure that the firefighter call wages are for just calls, and we're not using it for other purposes. They have another category of pay that we asked about, company report, but we don't know what that is. So we didn't put it in as a line, because we don't know what it is. The idea isn't to, actually, the idea wasn't to even reduce their budget, it was probably that we're probably gonna have to put a little more in their budget, to be honest with you. Looking through this past year, but we're most concerned with the, I'm looking for the line, I don't think it's there yet. We would like to have a line specific to the annual testing and certification of the equipment, right?
Yes, so it's there, annual testing and inspection. So,
Inspecting.
Where
so
am
the
I
middle
seeing that?
column
Second
The
under where it
third
says,
line down.
right, so the middle column where it says
Ah,
Board of Selectmen
That's the one
recommends.
we're really
Yeah.
looking for.
Those numbers are primarily from conversations Kurt and I have had since the original budget was submitted. So he's been going through, looking to find out what the actual cost is. We used to have an annual testing, and then we used to have a separate vehicle and equipment maintenance. The fire chief decided to consolidate those lines, I think, to make it easier to spend money on either purpose. And it's now got us into a situation where we have no money for our annual testing. So we've
Right.
insisted on going back and splitting those two lines out. So you'll see that in the past, it was like 3,000 for testing and 13,000 for vehicle and equipments. Well, testing alone comes to like $20,000 with his
Right.
annual requirements.
Right. That includes the air pack, other things, not just a
That,
truck,
No,
right?
this
that's
is all
not
the
just,
air
right,
systems,
that's
right.
the
Everything.
hoses,
Right.
the,
Yes,
right, so that's
right.
about 20,000 just on that.
Yes.
And then the 15,000 under vehicle and equipment maintenance is just my number, thinking that we've been spending more and more money maintaining the fleet. So if we have the money, which we had to increase that, I'd rather put more money in there and sort of keep an eye on what they're spending versus underfunding it and always being short.
Because historically, we've always been short, as long as I
Correct.
can
Correct.
relate back.
Well, they spent 27,017.
But that was also,
That also-
some of it
There
was
was also
testing,
stuff
it
in
was
there,
just a
yeah.
mishmash, and so that's what we've tried to clean it up so that they have essential things like the testing and certification gets done every year.
So
'cause, yes.
they requested just under 75,000, and we're recommending just under 98,000?
Yes.
It's a little bit more.
But
than-
we're realigning things to be more specific on what's being used for what line item. Right, so like the
Correct.
testing is under one line item.
It's accountable.
Maintenance
Correct.
is under one line item.
And putting the true
Supplies are under one
cost,
item.
right,
Okay.
and putting a more realistic cost for some of those purposes.
Okay,
Because, yes, we've had reserve fund transfers, we've had to cover those lines. So this way we can try and, again, be more realistic with where they're spending.
Right, and the fire academy training, I think, is rolled into training now, isn't it?
So,
Or
no, the
not?
fire academy training is under drill wages. So drill wages is their
Oh.
training and
firefighter
drills.
call wages? No.
No, the drill.
Drill
so-
wages, okay, I get it,
So
yeah.
as long as everybody's okay with the fact that the drill, it could be drill and training wages if you wanted to, I don't know.
Right, well, because I think the belief was that most of the,
They've all
most
been
everybody
told.
has now been trained through
Correct.
firefighter 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So that, there would not be as much of a need for that. The other change is I just plugged in a number on the chief's salary line. I don't know where you're all planning to go with that hours, so I just increased it. Again, I'm just trying to come up with something so that when you sit down at the table to decide what you want to do with that position, we have funds available.
So that was one of my questions. So if we turn around and we may have to bring in an interim, outside, possibly chief or whatever, we're gonna have enough money? Have you looked at what that could cost us? I mean, are
Well,
you
no,
just-
because you guys haven't even come to any discussions on it.
Okay.
So it really
So what
depends
if-
if we're hiring someone as an interim, if we're bringing in a consultant, if we're,
Right.
again, you guys need to have some discussions before I can get costs.
Right.
Because
So
I
my-
don't really know what
so the-
scope you're looking at.
So the second part of my question is, if the number's not plugged in there, and we have the discussion later on in the year, and we gotta find that money, we may have a problem.
Right,
So we need to have a serious discussion sooner than later on what we're gonna do, and that's kinda where I've been going in the meetings, I've been trying to say, we need to have a serious discussion on this sooner than later, because we can't go halfway through the year, decide we're gonna do something and say, oh, we don't have enough money to do this.
Right, which is why I bumped it up, so there was additional funds there for whatever you guys.
How much was it?
So
It was
the
just
salary was
under
29,000, I moved it up to 40.
so it's basically 30,000.
Okay,
So again, if that would give you flexibility on either number of hours.
Right.
Salary, again, I really
And
don't
we
know
don't-
where you guys are gonna come when you have this discussion.
and we
so-
don't know what an interim, say, an outside town interim fill-in retired, whatever, chief costs. We don't have, we have no idea what that even costs.
No, but again, it will go back to, do you want someone full-time? Do you want them just to look at the, it really just depends on what you're gonna require, how much time you want.
Right.
What the length, that all those factors would go
But
into
I-
figuring out what a cost would be.
This is just me personally talking. I think that we don't need to rush into it. I think we really need to take a year even, and really interview, and really find out where we want to go, and have enough discussions. And like I said a few weeks ago in our meeting, I think we need to have, like, some information from the different the fire departments, see where they want to go with it, and have that conversation, and at the end of the day, we get a good consensus where we need to go with this. But I don't think in the next year, you're gonna have a full-time or a part-time chief here, because without building the right number in here, and we don't even know what we need.
If I could just weigh in a little bit, I mean, I think that, just from finance board perspective, I think we need to be clear about what this 40,000 is, that this is not rolling over into this interim arrangement that's going on right now. This is no part of that, right? If we go into the next fiscal year, does this salary become the salary for the interim chief?
No, the salary is still whatever the Board of Selectmen set. That's just money in the line item so that they can set up to
Yeah,
40,000.
I would be worried, concerned, that that's not very transparent, that town meeting might not like that idea, because we don't do that in any other salary. We put the police chief's salary at what the police chief
But
is.
right now, we don't have anything to set it to.
I understand that. I do understand that. But I'm concerned about transparency. There's been a lot of arguing back and forth on what this position is, what it should be paid, how many hours it should be. This has been going on for what, 5 years right now, if I'm not mistaken. And it goes back to that the group that put this together, who included the fire chief that's now retired off the committee, they put together a job description, and I believe you should take a serious look at that and see if those are the qualifications that you want for your fire chief.
I really would say the job description is lacking. I think it's a.
Thank you.
I think the job description needs to be rewritten completely. I don't think it clearly articulates what a true fire chief would do. I think, so I don't think the job description, I think the job description matches the position and the salary that we currently have. I don't think that's a true fire chief position, based on what the job description is. I think it should be rewritten, and I think it should be brought up to where it should be as a fire chief. Again, what that means in terms of hours and salary is something you guys can decide. I was just trying to plug in a number so that when we get to that point, we have
You
funds
something to work
available.
with, right.
Right, and I clearly understand what you did, and I appreciate what you did, but where I'm getting at, we can't put the cart before the horse. We really need to have the conversation to see where this department needs to go, what they need.
Well, we had asked
Do we
the
need
fire department to
39?
do that.
I agree, Bill, but the problem is, if you don't do that, we need a special town meeting to authorize funding. If you decide in September, you're ready to hire a fire chief at X amount of money, and we don't have it.
I agree with you.
That's our
And
problem.
I'm not saying what you did is wrong. I think what you did is right, and I understand Kathy's point. She wants transparency, but I understand you have to have a number in there. And I clearly get that, but it's gonna take us some time. I think we need to weed out what the department actually needs. Like
Oh,
you
I
just said,
agree. Yep.
we need to get a good job description. We need to get, is it 39 hours, 20 hours? What do we need? And I think really someone from the outside needs to look at that department and take a good hard look at it and come to both sides and let both sides know.
So we could certainly, if you wanted to, put another line under that department for like consultants, and take that extra 11,000
Yeah,
or
I
10,000
would
and put under a
prefer-
consultant
That's what-
line.
That's what I
would
think.
prefer that, because it just seems like, you have someone that's interim, and then you put this number down, but then you don't pay that. It looks
Right.
like
So-
we're doing something shifty,
Well, I would
you know what I
say,
mean? It's
we
not
do, but we do that in other
transparent.
lines. We have salary at line items that don't match
No.
the exact salary that people are getting paid.
We do?
Yeah, so say the highway department, for instance. You have 3 guys, we build
Oh.
in certifications for what-if scenarios.
Okay,
So at the
yeah.
end of the day, that's not what we're spending on their
Yes.
You're building it
salary.
over.
But our
Overtime.
department heads, the bigger salaries, the department head salaries are pretty transparent. You can
Right.
see it, the townspeople are used to
I
reading
don't think
it.
there's anything that looks non-transparent here.
But what
I
about a
think
consultant line? That would make some
I would be
sense.
okay with a consultant line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Right,
the
I
same
think-
type of
I
thing, there's
agree.
money
To
there.
put the money there, yeah,
Right, Denise,
understand.
I agree. I think if we had that going into town meeting, we had that separate line, then we can turn around and say, okay, we're gonna go forward, might need to have a consultant, we might have a
You
guy
might
come
need-
in,
right.
and the money's there. And I'm not criticizing what Denise, I think she did the right thing.
No.
You know what I mean? I
she
think that
opened
what
up
she's
a
done is
good
fine. I just think
discussion.
to fine tune that a little bit better, I think we're gonna be better off.
So then let me ask, do you want that under the fire department budget, or do you want that under the selectman budget?
I would say
Like
put on the selectmen
consulting
budget, because then
services.
we'll have I think that we're gonna end up having the conversation, but, I don't.
But then, what would you think? I mean, if the consultant is definitely gonna be for if they need to hire somebody to help them travel this path, whether they do a consultant or whether they arrive at a point where they're ready to post a job, shouldn't it be in the department?
Well, but it goes back to the whole same thing, same discussion with the part-time labor.
Yeah.
You know, we were centralizing it under somewhere who was gonna be the point of contact. The
Okay.
Board of Selectmen are gonna be hiring and giving the consultants a specific task.
Okay.
It could certainly be under their budget as consulting services. You can
Okay.
put it under the fire department, it really makes no difference, I'm just
But
asking
if
what you
it's
prefer.
under the fire department, that doesn't mean that we don't have oversight to do with it what we had planned to do with it.
No, but it also means that the chief and sitting there, that's under his budget.
Strong chief can
Right,
take it and
right.
use it.
But-
Yeah,
Yeah.
can I make
Yeah.
can I make a
Oh,
recommendation?
that's a
The,
good
the
point.
the
Yeah.
consulting fee should be under the selectmen's.
Okay.
We do have a strong chief law, and we don't
Yeah.
want to hamstring anyone, but then we don't want to hamstring you either, and give you, as a board, as a committee, to do your own due diligence.
Without having the funding to do it.
Exactly.
All right, so I will just add like consulting services. So if by chance for some reason, we hire someone there and there's still
Right.
money left and you wanted to bring in someone, if there was another position you wanted to consult with, at least it gives you more flexibility
So,
throughout the course of the year, if there's something else you want.
so if I may, let's talk about the next 72 hours, because we voted the budget, just about everything, every piece except for the fire department.
Right, but we don't have a quorum here.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean
So I
voting
thought you
tonight.
meant
No, no,
voting.
but I
Okay,
mean, because
sorry.
we're meeting on Wednesday night.
Right, we're meeting Wednesday.
And there's a
night.
possibility that we may make a decision.
Yes, I think we will. I mean,
But at this point, I think what's going to happen is we do recognize that the fire department does require additional funds to operate.
Yes.
They have transformed quality of services, expansion of services. We're not resisting that. We're looking at 11% increase here. Now, we just finished doing the police budget, and that came in at 2% increase, $1.4 million budget, and here we're looking at 11% increase. We're not fighting that. We just need a little bit more, what is it, background information or
Right.
more transparency of what's
Right,
needed?
well, this is good. I mean, Denise she did all the work for us.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'm fine
again.
with that.
So, I mean, if you want to
In
remove.
my free time.
I know, and the
Actually, by
Mass
changing
Fire
powers.
Academy training could just be removed to simplify the look of it,
Well, I
guess.
didn't want to remove it because there's still history in
Oh, there's an-
17.
There's an old.
So I didn't want to,
All
so
right.
next year it will be gone.
So the only thing that I am concerned about is that 40,000, will that give the Board of Selectmen the time that Bill Dunn is talking about?
Well, we're
Well,
putting,
so right now I have the salary back to 29,333.
Right.
That's right.
And then
That's right.
10,000 under consulting services
Right.
under the
Exactly.
selectmen.
And
line.
and to go back to Joe's point for a minute, to go
yes,
back to
and
Joe's point,
10,000, yeah, that makes
and I'm not
sense.
trying to be on camera here and make it sound like we have a horror show going on, we don't.
No.
That department right now is in turmoil to the point where we don't know what's going on, the selectmen and the finance board and the fire department. Until all three of us get together and work out the kinks and what we need to do, we can't get good hard numbers. I don't believe we can.
Oh, I do have one point. They submitted two budgets. And we decided, and someone else did two budgets too, right?
Yes, the Board of Health.
Okay, and we decided to review the budgets that were submitted in accordance with the directives by Denise. And then we looked at the other budget, but I didn't think we were gonna put the other, like the stipends are part of Plan B budget, and that's, I don't see that that belongs on the warrant, because we can't explain that. The one that, because the fire chief that asked for that is no longer here. So I
Okay.
just feel like it's gonna add confusion, it's gonna sound like we're taking something away from somebody, and it's not that at all. These were like a new idea from,
So we were looking at the higher budget, not the low, there were two
no, we were
budgets.
looking at the lower one.
Yeah, Steve
but
told me to take that out of the requested
We added
column.
money to the lower budget.
Right.
We added money to the
So
budget.
can you explain that to the Board of Selectmen? There were two budgets that were submitted by the fire
Right, and
department.
one had like a wish list of, putting
Yeah, I'm
in
looking at it right
stipends
here.
for EMS coordinators.
Yeah.
There were different coordinator positions. We don't know what
Sure,
these
thanks.
positions are, or if the new fire chief is going to write new job descriptions. We don't know.
Right,
So we don't
those
want to go
ones?
down that path until you have a new fire chief.
right.
If that's okay. So I just thought it would be less confusing. I think that they'll be happy with what we've done with the testing. We did put in the line for the company reporting, so they have those funds there for, we're not sure what that is. We're thinking it's maybe meetings, or I'm not sure. But there might be some small things they do that's not a call, not a fire call.
Right.
So that's now separately itemized so that you can see it. The drill wages are intact. The call wages should be sufficient now because they have the additional 7,000, right? So if you add the 7,000 to the 108, you'd have from this past year 107, and we're giving them what do we recommend? 108 plus the 7. We're still giving them more money.
Right, so what I did, so just so you know on
Yes.
that, I
Yeah.
took, for the salaries, I took, for the recommendation that I was proposing, like the firefighter wages, that's what they requested, is the 115. So that's what the 108 and the 7,000, we just split it up into two different categories, but it
Categories.
equals what they were requesting
Yes.
based on an increase in calls, because they're going on many more
Right.
EMS calls and they're going on more calls. So they are spending more money on firefighter wages. So it's not realistic to use the 102 that he requested on the
The Plan A
budget that
budget.
stays within the 2%, because we're gonna
Right.
exceed that, because we are actively going on more calls.
Right.
So that's why that 115, if you look at their budget, the lesser of the two budgets, they really only requested 102,000. But again, that's not realistic. So we did try on the salary, on some of those items, try to stay more in line with, again, where we're gonna fall, where their spending is gonna be based on, you know, what the current call situation is. Same thing with the drill wages, although they requested the same amount. So inspector, drill, and the chief's salary, they requested the same amount. It was just that firefighter wages, and then, yes, they were requesting stipends. But I can just delete that line, because it's
Right.
not in their lesser of the two budgets.
So I think leaving this meeting, we should just basically concentrate on keeping them safe, give them what they need to be safe, which we've done. And I don't think we should grow the department in any way until we have those further discussions down the road, as far as
Right.
expenditures.
Right.
Yeah, so the only expenditures we know of, like I said, are the annual testing now, they went through and figured out, and medical supplies. So that's why there's a jump in medical supplies.
Yeah.
Because we went through the class 5, some of the medication they purchased in advance of all that has expired, because it took almost a year to get that class 5 license. And that was based on the request from Kurt, when they were looking at what's gonna be needed for actual supplies. So that's why a few of the expense lines are being increased on recommendation, at least by me, based on what Kurt is finding as he goes through and figures out where they're really gonna need money.
I mean, it looks like it's, with the 10,000 removed, it's like a 17% increase overall for the budget.
Right.
It's the biggest jump that we've advocated for in.
Yeah, we're
department
advocating
budget.
for that, remember, that's important, we're advocating for that.
10,000 removed, where'd you get the 10?
For
Under
the,
selectmen.
That was 11 for the,
No, I just made it 10,
10,
so,
10 for the consulting.
so we put the chief's salary back to the regular
The
amount.
29,333?
Right.
Yes.
Took out the $5,000 for the stipends.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't take that
But
out.
that wasn't in
Wait.
the recommended
No, no.
column, that was only in
Oh,
the
okay, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
requested column.
So
this
overall,
is-
it's a 17%
Okay.
increase.
And this is one of the reasons why we didn't vote the
Yeah.
budget. We thought we were very close, but we wanted to talk about a couple of these issues, which now we figured out.
Well, Denise figured it out.
Denise.
Well,
I have
she
it in
figured it out, but we now understand where you
Yeah.
stand, and now
Right.
we're gonna go into our meeting on Wednesday with a little bit more confidence and the likelihood that we'll vote a budget for the fire
And this is
department.
something that I tried doing in the private years, is we all need to have these kind of conversations at the table.
Yeah.
Both sides can have the conversation, and we get it all smoothed out. You go back, make your informed decision, we make our informed decision. It's the right way to do it.
Okay.
That is a public meeting, anyone's
So,
welcome to.
that looks fine right now.
Anybody have
Yeah.
any other questions so we can move on? from-
Nope.
Let's go.
Yeah, just,
Good, yep.
I almost want to leave the 40 for the fire chief to give us some kind of flexibility, because we really, at this point, don't really know what it's going to cost us. But I'm pretty sure it's probably going to cost us a little more than 29.3.
So you're saying in addition to the consulting, put that back to 40?
Or
Well,
give me 35.
But once it's
Give the
in the
board some
budget, though-
flexibility, so if we go out and start, we put together a new job description, we go out and we interview some people that know something about something, and they say, you know, you should be looking for people with these kind of qualifications, with these kind of certificates, with this kind of background, with this kind of education. And then we all add all that up, and it's more than what we've budgeted for. Now what do? We go a whole year before?
No,
so the
you
only
use
thing I would
the
say to that,
consultant
though,
money.
is
You can use the
the
consultant
likelihood
money.
that you will be ready for all that by July 1st is very slim. So
Exactly.
every month we go into the fiscal year,
It
we
comes
have
off
that
that.
capacity still. So
Yes.
let's say it's September and you really think that 40 is the right number. You know, we may have enough money at that point, at least to get us to next year's special town meeting
Right.
where we could increase it.
Right.
Unless you're ready to go July 1st.
But
You
in
know, I
September,
was
you're
just
not looking
doing
at
it 'cause-
40, you're looking at 33.
Right, for the year. So,
Right.
I mean, I was just looking to give you guys some flexibility, but by putting it in a consulting line, it still gives you flexibility on that avenue.
Yes.
And then, like I said, even if it takes you 3 or 4 months, unless you're gonna go to a $100,000 salary, then we won't have that kind of capacity. But if you're still looking at sort of the 30 to 50 range,
It will take
Yep.
into the fall.
you may
department.
have
It's
time
gonna
By
take-
the
within
time
budget.
we get this all lined out with
Right.
the department, by the time we get a job description, by the time we interview, and by the time we hire, we're gonna be 8 months. I guarantee you.
And by then, though,
Right.
you'll have a new job
Guarantee it.
description
I
that we
guarantee
can
it.
present, so when
And I
town
get what
meeting
you're saying, Bill.
asks.
I do, I
You
get what
know.
you're
So
saying, but
yeah,
I
by
think we'll be
that time,
safe.
we'll have the remainder of the money in there for the remainder of the fiscal year.
But you also would have changed the job
Right.
description, so that would explain the change. Right now, we don't have that change.
And that change will either support that trend line on the salary, or it might modify it, we
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
But to anticipate that it might go to 40, why, if your position is to pay that position at current levels, it doesn't make sense to just immediately boost it to 40. I think what we did is good, it's a good idea. Get the 11,000, put it in your budget, and go,
Yeah.
go from there.
It is a change, but I think it's a change that can be reasonably anticipated.
What do you mean, which change? The one I just mentioned?
No, the one, the
the
movement in the
the
salary.
voice.
I understand, yeah.
But the transparency becomes an issue for us as a finance committee. It's like, how do we explain 29 to 40?
Now we're talking about a job description that doesn't exist yet.
Exactly.
You know,
We
it
can't
just-
defend that
And then we're
position.
talking about a person that's in the job, and the job description doesn't exist, and that person in the job isn't getting the salary, and why aren't we doing
Mm-hmm.
that? And it just, to me, seems to be,
But because we don't have a job
Problematic.
description changed, now
To
we
put it
take the
there.
current job description, we're still paying 29 and change, and we gave you guys 11,000 to do a study. or
How
hire
do
a
you
consultant.
sell the town people a job right now that's 29,000 and you're gonna change it to possibly 79,000 or 69? That's a hard sell. It is, it's gonna be a hard sell. They really should be
Well,
educated
we don't know
about
if
it.
we're going there.
No, no, I'm just saying, it would be a hard sell for
but
us
the
to plug.
possibility exists to create a job that's a working fire chief / EMT that's beneficial to the town, because this
Yeah.
individual would have the training to go on the calls. And there becomes something that the town would benefit from, instead of an administrator. I
Yep.
think the old job description, if you look at it, was more of an administrator, fire chief. And that was my understanding of it. That's why the hours were so small, the salary and the requirements were below what a working fire chief would be.
You okay with that?
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Building
building
department,
department.
looking good.
Steady Eddie, we were going from 81,000 to 82,000.
We like them.
Well-run department, great customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has no increase, no
Yeah.
requested increase on the expense side,
Yep.
just the 2% on the salaries.
Now, the electrical inspector, that was somebody we just switched,
Yeah.
but the cost stays the same?
Yep.
All right. Bill, anything on that?
Not on that, no.
Bill?
All set?
All right. Emergency management?
I'm good with that.
Fine. I'm fine with
No
that.
questions.
Okay. Oh, education.
Education came in okay, I mean, monetary wise,
Right, so the only wild card is always gonna be Essex Tech.
Right.
yeah.
The current budget, we are short $12,000, I believe, at the 210,000, so I'm requesting to bump it up to 250, just because, again, I'd rather have a little extra in there in anticipation of a few more students than have to find the money.
Right.
But it's been hovering around 200 or so.
Right, so this year it's 222,000 though.
So the problem is that because we're not a member district, really, our students go there because they are by law allowed to go to an agricultural program.
Right.
But because we're not a member district, unlike the Pentucket and the Whittier assessments, that they use the student count in the fall to do the
The
assessment.
prior fall.
Right.
Yeah, the prior fall, so the number's already there. This school is waiting to the upcoming fall to tell us what we owe, which is a terrible system for
Yes.
us. It's really.
By the way, you owe us
Right.
So,
$230,000.
We're gonna try and look at it when we have some time. I don't know what we can do about it, but it is a very terrible system for a town that sets its budget in one annual town meeting.
Right.
Right, so I've gotten an email that says how many kids have applied. And then towards June, we'll get another email that says how many of those kids they've preliminarily accepted into the program. Then they have until like August to accept acceptance into the program. Then based on who accepts, they then look to see how many spots they still have and go out to their second wave of students. So, and then they use the October 1st numbers, and then they notify us, like November 1st, what our actual current, or what that year's budget is. So they are a total wild card. Whittier, as you'll see, went down. We have less students in Whittier.
Yep.
And the Pentucket number is the number that we've been talking about for a while now. So, yeah, so
Okay.
that is, but, so the revision that I left you
Yeah.
is the numbers that we had talked about, that they were originally short 600,000, then they made $300,000 worth of cuts and came back to the communities and asked us if we could cover, I think for us, it was an additional $78,000.
Okay.
So it still was within what we could afford.
What you gonna- And where does the 12,000 shortage?
The current, it's in current Essex Tech.
Okay, yes.
So the fiscal 18 Essex
That's
Tech
right,
line.
yes, that's right.
We
So
will
this is,
need-
this is not valid? This one is?
It's the same number.
So, we're looking at that very carefully. We have
Is it not?
a town budget of $16 million and change, and our school budget is 10 million and change, so little wiggle room in there could
No.
create large swings.
I'm confused. That was,
What's that, 65% of our budget?
No, it's the same.
school?
You have to add the 8,991,562
Pretty
and the
much
548,110.
Rather
Comes to the
than falls on
proposed
that budget.
9,539,672.
Assessment.
The other columns are what they were originally proposing, and then we came back. and-
Any
got it.
questions on the
Yep,
school?
9539.
Yes. You panicked me there for a minute.
Any other questions, Bill?
But
No.
it's great that they can bring that budget in at an amount that we can absorb in our
Where
caps.
they-
Yes, and I would say they really have been great, and I know Dr. Mulqueen has a lot to do with it. You know, when school came before finance last week, you know, they've reiterated something that we've talked about at least since my time here. Even though you only need 2 out of the 3 communities to pass the budget, they really want to work with all 3 communities and make sure that their number works. And, you know, we meet throughout the year, we talk throughout the year. And when he came back at one point, Greg, and he said, can you do this? And I said, it was with the higher number. I just can't. We cannot afford that kind of money. You know, this year we allowed the departments, the town departments, a little more leeway that they could increase their expense line 2.5%. That extra 0.5% that we've been cutting and cutting and cutting. So they went back and reworked their side of it to try and come to an agreeable number for all 3 communities. So they really have been great. You know, they encourage us to continue to try and push that with a new superintendent coming in, and hope that they will continue to work with the 3 communities collaboratively instead of treating us as just 2 out of 3 needs to pass.
Okay.
Yep, that's good.
Just want to say that we've got about 45 minutes left.
Yep, let's go.
So we still got to go back to planning.
I know, we can go quick.
Tree warden,
We're fine.
So there is an increase because the cost of trees is expensive. So that 5,000 really is enough to cover 1 day of bringing in a tree company. Which with the last few storms, we've had ridiculous expenses on the tree
Right.
side. So really, that's all, just an increase to cover that 1 extra day.
I'm assuming there's not many questions on that.
Is there a possibility we can recover some of that through a MEMA of?
They have to
FEMA?
declare a
We're still waiting
federal
for them to go back
emergency.
So
to
this-
Bob.
This 5,000 is just for the storm?
No,
No,
that's
no.
just for the next budget,
Next budget
just,
season.
So there's
if
extra money
we
there.
need, so if we need tree service, right now
Yep.
it's all been coming out of the highway budget. So this will cover 1 day of bringing in a tree service to spend 1 day doing a lot of our work.
Because before, I thought our tree warden, the 1,500 was the stipend.
Correct, and we moved it
And-
out of the stipend line to the expense line years
No, it's
ago.
just expense.
And then wasn't it always paid by the highway department?
Yes,
So, but now we're gonna increase it for more work, is what you're saying? We need more work done?
well, it's costing the highway department a ton of money to take trees down. We have a tree warden budget, so we might as well budget some of that under the actual tree warden budget, because that's what it's for
Instead of out of
tree
the highway
services.
Okay.
Yeah,
So right now, our tree warden is on the highway department, he doesn't
Right.
receive a stipend, and the
Right.
plan is, which we'll have to talk about a little bit, the whole elected to appointed,
Yeah.
the plan would be to consolidate that to the
To the
highway
new-
superintendent,
to the
but
new
we have a
To a
little glitch
DPW.
with that whole thing, so we'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay.
Highways,
In the highways, the reduction in the salaries is the facilities person, right?
Correct.
okay.
And then the one other change is snow and ice. We're always way
That's
short.
always a wild card.
So there's a bump there. I mean, obviously, if the budget got really tight, we could revisit that bump. You can see it. but this budget hasn't been increased in, we think, 20 years. There was a time when we were increasing it incrementally each year to catch it up from not being increased from before. So it's one of those budgets that falls by the wayside, and then we keep bailing it out with all of our free cash, and we never have any money to buy capital items.
Right, so right now, we're
Yeah.
$76,000 in a deficit. We went through with the remaining bills, thankfully, we didn't have a storm last week. But we have about $10,000 to $11,000 worth of bills that haven't been paid yet. So hopefully, that'll end it at about 90,000.
Do we have an idea if, is it the feds that declare a state of emergency or the state?
We haven't gotten any.
No, do we have an
news.
idea when that might come back? Because that will help
No, if
fund
it
back
comes.
some of this money.
No, so it doesn't. If they do declare a state of emergency, well, it just doesn't work that way. If they do declare a state of emergency, it's usually the following fiscal year
Right,
that the
you
funds
don't get
come
the
in.
money.
And
You
it
don't
just
get the
comes in
money
as general fund
till-
revenue. You can't then
Right.
offset it back to snow and ice. It just
I'm-
comes in as free cash, really.
What you can look at it is, like, let's say we use some of the free cash to bail out snow and ice, and then the money comes back, that money should go to capital stabilization.
Right.
Because we didn't have it, because we had to pay snow and
Right.
ice.
So the last time we
Yeah.
saw that was 2015, and I don't
Correct.
think we have any chance at all that that's gonna be declared this year.
No, I actually do think so,
Yeah?
because if you look at New England, Massachusetts specifically,
Mm-hmm.
they usually declare it by counties, and Essex County, even though we were spared that March 1st storm, the coastline, Newburyport, got significant damage with the rains, as did the South Shore. So we're kind of hoping that, like they did in 2015, they picked a period of time. So, the first 3 weeks of March could be the reimbursable time period.
Well, the coastline, for sure, has been heavily in the news. I was just wondering,
Right.
is any money gonna come over to Groveland?
Well, it would have, because they would have to declare Essex. They can't just
Essex.
pick communities. So if they pick Essex because we have the benefit of Newburyport and Newbury and things like that, which had severe issues, then we could also lump in.
Jump on
As
their
long as
bandwagon.
long as they also add sort of the 3 nor'easters that followed.
Great.
But we won't know we won't know if
So we
and when
can't
they'll
count
make
on
a
that.
declaration. I will just say on the whole snow and ice thing, you'll see that whether it's tonight or not, when you look at the special town meeting warrant, as always, there's a ton of transfers to try and cover that. I cannot cover right now the $76,000, let alone 90.
All right.
I'm at about 70,000 with cutting, and just going through. We do have the benefit that we will not have a town planner this fiscal year. So again, if town meeting approves a different town planner, it'll be July 1st, so we have all that 35,000 appropriated. I'm putting it all to snow and ice. We're short a library position right now, the majority of that money will still be in there. I'm taking money out there. Anywhere that we have a couple $1,000s, I'm trying to cut it and put it towards snow and ice. The hope would be that come the end of the fiscal year, we still have some capacity elsewhere, but I can't find the 76 that we need right now within our budgets.
We need to move, to stay on schedule.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Bill? All right. Rubbish collection. That's
Rubbish
another-
is great.
Another hot topic in town.
So the contract expense is contractual with the exception of recycling.
Okay.
So recycling is a commodity. Right now, we're high. We're higher than we should be with recycling costs. We were averaging like $200 a month. Now we're up to about $1,200 a month. We still have the capacity to cover that, but that's the only non-consistent item in our contract.
Is that because we're recycling more or less as a town?
No, it's actually has nothing to do with that. It's the commodity in China. The cost of paper and recycling has gone up.
In China?
So it costs us more to recycle.
So when I throw my plastic bottle in a recycling, it costs more because China's charging more?
China's not taking the recycling anymore.
It's
isn't it?
it's
Yep.
all about China.
Yep, it
I
is.
thought it was that
There's
floating
an-
debris field in the Pacific
That was
Ocean.
an article about it.
So
Google it.
because of the commodity costs going up, it's costing us more to recycle. So, but otherwise, it's all contractual anyways, but.
All right, cemetery?
I recluse myself on that one.
So cemetery, you have a revised budget in front of you.
Jill handled it.
The original proposal was $50,000 for a superintendent, 9,000 for part-time wages, and then commissioner stipends. As you'll recall, one of the commissioners came before us and said that's not what we decided. Last Wednesday, when the finance board was meeting, they met and decided to present a revised budget, which includes $38,000 for a laborer position, a full-time laborer. I think they're gonna call him a foreman. And then $12,000, I think it is, for
Additional.
clerical or office support, and then 9,000 for part-time summer help. So their budget only increased by $535 from when originally proposed, because they kept the salary of the full-time position the same. But for the most part, their request is the same dollar amount, they just reallocated how they want it to appear.
Okay,
Good.
I'm good. Bill, you good?
Yeah.
All right. Do human resources, or human services? Board of Health.
I'm good.
So Board of Health, just to Kathy's point, I'm gonna actually change their request, because she wanted to focus on the, budget that stayed within the parameters, so I'm gonna actually change their requested budget to, their original request. So their requested budget will fall in line with what's being recommended, because I won't reflect their additional hours that they were asking for.
Okay. Bills, any questions?
No.
So
No.
Kathy, just so you're aware, I'm gonna change the Board of Health's requested column.
Oh, okay.
Because that was on, I had it from their second budget request, not their first.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna drop that down to be their
These double
54,
budgets.
473?
Yeah. Okay.
54,473, yes.
Good. That's great.
Council on Aging?
I'm good.
No questions.
Yeah, we were good on that.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Veterans?
No questions.
No.
So veterans quickly, I originally put in 35 as the benefit line. We're trending low again this year, so I bumped it back down a little bit. Veterans is another wild card. It really depends who moves into our community, what their expenses are. I did meet, just so you're all aware, I did meet with our veterans agent Monday night briefly. Some changes might be coming down. We may have to look to join a regional veterans group. He's contemplating retiring, and if that's the case, I don't know that we'll get the same deal with Haverhill. And the state is really pushing consolidated services. So I will say that comes with a cost, because we did research it when I first got here. That's something we'll have to look at down the road, but right now, we'll just sort of hope the status quo works, at least for next year.
State push school regionalization either, too. How did that work out for us?
Okay. That's Veterans Library?
Library, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, Denise, it's the part-time wages, we raised them to the minimum, remember?
Correct.
And then now they've readjusted the library staff. Did they adjust other wages because of that? That were
Right, so-
Above that, yes.
Yes,
right,
so when they
to
moved
make it
the,
all-
when they moved the part-time up to
Yes.
minimum wage, they bumped up their library assistants, because they would have been like 10 cents higher than the minimum wage, so.
Yeah.
They bumped them up slightly, again, that was after the budget last year. They have plenty of money in their current budget to cover it, but that's why there's a slight increase to account for that.
Right,
And the only other increase, I think, in their budget is really their materials line, and that's to stay within their required spending.
right.
Can I ask a crazy question?
Sure.
We have a vacant position we're giving a 2% raise to?
Yeah.
We always do,
Pretty
just to
much.
keep with the theory is that that's what the position is valued at, so.
Keep it in line with the other
We've always sort of
salaries.
kept it aligned with what the position really should be going for.
But future employees are looking at it the same way.
Okay.
Okay. Seems a little fakakta to me, but
Well, you can recommend another amount, but that's just sort of what we've done, just to
Is that
continue the
position-
positions moving forward.
Planning to be filled?
We are in the process of scheduling interviews.
Okay.
Good.
So that is planned to be filled at some point?
Yes, that should be filled before July 1st.
So that phantom person getting the 2.5% raise
It's
is gonna be
going
there
to
soon?
It's going to be a real.
and they're gonna be excited because they haven't worked a day yet and they're already gonna get a raise.
Right, well, I
What
would
a
actually,
country.
I would actually
Trump is right, he's
recommend,
made America great again.
I would
For
actually
somebody.
recommend that we hire the person at the higher rate now, and then not give them another rate, oh my God, rate increase July
You
1st.
see how crazy this is?
Oh, yeah.
All making us?
You know, because it'll be a minimal impact to the budget, so instead of hiring like 18 now and 1820 in
Yeah.
a month, I would just
Hire 'em at
recommend the
the-
1820 and just keep it
Okay.
until next year.
Yes.
That's what we
Sounds
just did last year with
Okay.
the end of the year.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. Any questions, Bill? Any other questions about
Didn't we just hire the acting director too?
Well, we promoted her from the youth services to the director. She's now the full director.
And she's been a full director for how long?
Well,
3 months? 2 months?
she was appointed interim in November?
She's been there
It's
for a while.
October, I think,
October,
yeah.
November?
Yeah.
So she's been the permanent director now for 6 weeks, maybe.
She was the interim in the fall.
She's been getting the same she's been getting the director's salary, though, since probably October.
Learning how government works. So much
Yep.
different than
Debt
private
services?
industry.
I'm good.
Yep. Bill's good. Bill, you okay with debt services?
Yeah, that's gonna be, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yep, okay.
And the 85,000 again down there in the OPEB for the retirement.
Yeah, we need to
Unclassified?
keep that
Yeah.
going.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that will be, the state was working on our free cash Friday. We were hoping to hear from them Friday, so we'll follow up tomorrow and see where that stands. But that will be funded, hopefully, with free cash funds. If we do not have free cash, we cannot afford that 85,000.
Yep,
The,
gotcha.
free cash from last budget, is that all gone?
Well, it's not all gone, but you can't use it
You can't reuse
indefinitely.
it.
You have one fiscal year to appropriate it or use it.
Yeah.
So anything that was left, it was like $11,000 that was left, that will just fall into this year's free cash.
Right, right.
Right.
So, that being said, the OPEB, if we can't fund it, we're going right down that road again. There's no other place to find it.
right, but we
What
also have to repay the snow and ice that's over
We've had-
$73,000,
yeah,
so
we've had-
And what
Tough.
about the
that's unforeseen.
possible land sales? Could that be used for that?
No, because again, that just comes in as general fund revenue.
And you can't use
just-
general fund revenue toward that?
You can if it comes in and then you have a special town meeting and allocate it out, but you can't just take money and re-spend it.
Right.
There's 1,000
Well, we
ways for
may
it
have a
not to
fall
work.
special town meeting anyway for the schools.
So we will not have a fall
Oh,
special town
no.
meeting. We will now have a February or March special town
I
meeting.
know.
Oh,
The
We gotta
school will
accommodate
not
the
be
school.
prepared
okay.
to move forward this November.
Oh.
So at our meeting,
Well,
Tuesday.
it was always, a best-case scenario, that this, we could expedite all this paperwork to the point where we could make an October meeting. But the real realization was, I think, it's just too much too quick.
Right.
And we're better off backing off a step, educating the public a little more.
Definitely.
And giving them a little more to chew on than trying to shove it down their throat in a really quick manner. So I think that's in a nutshell.
yeah, so we need to work, I'm gonna meet with Carol, the finance director of Merrimack, and then, they want it to be a selectman in West Newbury that meets with us to pick, a new special town meeting date and town election date. They want to sync the three communities on the same day, so that we
Going
can
back to
have some
planning.
consistency as far as the vote goes.
Yeah, we go back
So,
to
but
town
now they're
sign.
looking at February or March for that.
Yeah, I definitely think the more PR on it, the better off you're gonna be.
And it's vitally important for the success of this project that all three towns have the vote on the same day.
Right.
Yeah, because you can't say, oh, Merrimack and West Newbury already voted for it, so what?
Right, well, because with the school project, it's unanimous, you need all three
Right.
towns.
Right.
So if one votes no,
Right.
Forget it.
Then-
the other two don't even need to meet, really.
Right.
So they want everyone to be on the same day for that purpose.
Okay.
The street lighting,
Yep,
did that go down because of the LED lights?
yes, it did.
Fantastic.
I asked the
But
same question.
But
But
every time you add a street light, it's gonna cost us more. So even though
there's a
each
safety issue
each
with some
street
of the
light-
street corners.
Well, each street light is about $200 a year now, because it's a low cost, but we've already added, I think, 4 of them. So,
So it's $800.
right, but if you keep adding, we're gonna need to
Right,
add
but
more
we're not
money
gonna
in that
add
33,000.
700 of them.
Yeah,
just
but
saying.
we're hoping to get that $200 back by one less response from the fire and police unit going out to a
When-
crash.
When they put all these new
situation.
housing developments in, who pays for that light, the lights going in those developments?
We pay for the cost associated with the lights.
So that comes out of that money.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yep.
everyone says it's good to, add houses in Groveland and more houses and more houses, but every time you do it, you're adding streetlights, you're adding fire, you're adding police. You know what I mean? Businesses, you
But,
don't put a bus in front of a business.
You stress the resources.
Right.
okay, well, we continue to pay them more money, but they don't pay us more money. So that's something we're gonna visit
Well,
in the
that should be
coming
a
year.
conversation we need to have.
Yes, that payment in lieu, or whatever you wanna call it, hasn't
It's been the
changed.
same for a long time.
Right, so.
Yes, and they voted last week to keep it the same.
Right,
again.
right, so we're gonna address that in the new year,
Yep.
because that
Okay.
needs to get addressed.
I do like the LED lighting. though.
Yeah.
There you go, he's happy.
Any other questions on, yeah, that's important. Makes
Mm-hmm.
me happy. Any other questions on classified? Bill?
No.
Bill?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Bill?
Bill.
It
Sorry,
just,
so
it didn't
let's go
strike me
back
until you
to-
started doing the Bill thing, that
I'm only
Lisa
a mic.
really Lisa needs to be here, so he's not going Bill all the time.
So let's go back to the planning,
Good. So
close
do
this out.
you have new news, or do you want me to just tell them what we talked about? or-
Well, so the,
Ooh.
well, I guess this is gonna be a question on how everyone wants to proceed.
Okay, let's hear it.
So when Mike Dempsey went before the finance board to talk about the CPA articles, part of the discussion was, one of the articles submitted is to redo the open space and recreation plan. And they are appropriating 30,000 for that.
30,000.
So the discussion came up of, well, is this something a town planner could do? Which in theory, yes, it is. So the thought was, well, can we take part of that money and offset this 45,000, so the general fund, say, paying 15 and you're paying 30 out of that? I will say I disagreed with that, just because we need to get a town planner to do planning. I don't think it's appropriate that we hire a town planning, the first task they're doing is conservation, open space. I think if we hire a full-time planner, you could then say, 25 hours a week is planning and 10 hours a week is for conservation, this open space plan. So we started having some conversations. I met with Mike Dempsey last week, and he said he's not opposed to, and again, this is now gonna go to the board and sort of finances in general. He thinks that, or he knows that some communities use CPA funds on an
Yeah.
annual basis to fund salaries that work specifically in terms of open
love it.
space, recreation, affordable housing. Our planner would be dealing with all of those three things. So what I might propose to you all is, we now look for a $65,000 a year full-time planner, full-time hours. We use 45,000 from our budget and 20,000 on an ongoing basis from the CPA fund, so that we can actually get somebody qualified and have them do both tasks. Again, I can't justify hiring a part-time planner to start with conservation work, because there is a required deadline. But if we can get someone in here that can focus, 25 hours a week on solely planning, and then say 10 hours a week to work on that project, we can fund a full-time planner. And
Why
I
is
think
it,
that's the only way we're gonna really get somebody.
Why is it only 20,000 again for CPA funds to go towards that?
No, I just picked a number.
Oh.
I don't think we need more than a $65,000 planner.
No, I'm just wondering why it's 45 on this line and 20 out of theirs.
Well, because planning is gonna be the primary responsibility of the
Right, okay.
position.
Part of the question was, originally was, do you think that we can put a $65,000 or whatever full-time planner to work and give them enough work at this point?
Yes.
100%.
It
We
seems
could
like
give
from
them,
what
we could give them
asked.
enough planning work only, but
Okay,
yes.
so planning work would be business planning type stuff as well? When I say business, I'm looking at the town overall picture for business as well as
Zoning, the master plan,
Right.
business districts.
not growing our housing over our,
Affordable housing, they would
Right.
be the representative with Merrimack Valley Planning
Right.
and all the regional planning
and then
initiatives.
that would also help Merrimack Valley Planning, bringing in some grants and that kind of stuff as well.
And me, because I'm now doing all of
Right,
that.
Right, and they're going to do the open space plan.
And
if
then
do
we
this-
would have them do the open space
Yeah,
plan.
and that, to me,
Right,
that makes
right.
perfect sense. Why hire another person to do our open space plan when we have a
Yeah.
person in
I
town
think if you-
looking at everything in the town?
I think
This-
if you got the right person in that
This is
position,
a
and the person knew what
win-win.
they're doing, that person ultimately could almost pay for its position just by grant writing and that kind of stuff would pay for its own position. I'm not saying pay 100% of it, but I think a good portion of it, when you get that thing rolling in 2 or 3 years, you're gonna end up getting the
So-
money back just from what he saves the
Well, the
town, or
grant
she
writing,
saves the
yeah.
town.
What do we need to do on that? Do we need to vote on that at the next meeting, or?
Do we need to raise this to 65 now, and you're gonna put 20,000 in the revenue forecast from CPA? How are you going to do this?
No, because,
How's it gonna be?
so that I don't know, because Mike would have to reconvene the CPA committee to make a vote before we finalize the warrant, because there would be a warrant
Well,
article.
we need that, yes. So, yes, I.
So if that's something
I-
everyone supports, then I can, I mean, I know
I
you guys
want
can't
this to
legally
happen.
vote, but we can vote Wednesday. But if that's something that's supported, then I can reach out to Mike, tell him that, we'll take, well,
like
actually,
that.
Kathy, I shouldn't even say that, in year one, we're already set, because we already have the article for the 30,000.
Right.
So we'll take 20,000 of that, 10 can be used if if he or she needs consulting assistance the first year
Yeah.
with Merrimack Valley Planning. So year one, we're already good with
We're already set.
65,000.
Right, I'm good with it.
That way, we'll actually, because right now the thought was, we throw 45,000 at a planner. Are we increasing the salary? Are we increasing the hours?
Right.
The planning board really didn't have any opinion on that. They just wanted to get somebody. I think if we hire a 35-hour-a-week, full-time planner at 65,000,
Right, and CPA money are tax dollars. People paid that money, and now their tax dollars are being used
Right.
to support our operating
If
needs.
you get the right
know.
person, you will,
It's- I think
I'm
it's
telling you,
great.
it will work its way.
Oh, I know.
I
That
like
person's
that.
gonna work its money in it, once we get rolling.
Yep.
And just the projects and everything else that they can bring to Groveland,
Yep.
you will get it back twofold.
and every year with, I mean, there is, affordable housing is lacking.
Right.
You know, we have developers that are calling me that want to come in. I don't have anyone for them to meet with, because we don't
Right.
even have an affordable housing committee. We just, so, again, the planner would work on that, open space, those things fall under CPA.
And
So
if you
even if
paid
they're
the right-
allocating a portion of their week or a portion of their year to those two projects, the CPA funds would be more than justified.
If you paid the
Right.
right salary, you're gonna get the right person, as you know already.
Yep.
But now we have all the tasks, because my biggest dilemma with this position was, what are they gonna be doing all day? And,
There's
and,
plenty they, yeah.
well, yes and no, I mean, we're not like a housing boom here in Groveland, but when you start to look at, the open space, the master plan, and all these other things, and then you start to realize, we're appropriating CPA funds on this other hand, which are tax dollars, and then we're running an operating budget, you put them together,
Yep.
this is
So
good.
so
This is
theoretically,
good.
we started with, $40,000, and theoretically, if we wanted to as a town, we could hire someone for $40,000 and use all CPA funds, but
Right.
that's not a good idea.
Right,
Our vision, correct me if I'm wrong, is now that 30% of that job is funded by the CPA, because only 30% of that job description should be devoted to the things that are related to CPA, like
Yeah.
open space. The rest of it is other stuff
Right.
that has nothing to do with conservation and open space, et cetera.
Okay.
And we feel, as a Board of Selectmen, you need to have the flexibility to bring in quality people, pay them well, and use money other than CPA to be able to do that.
Nothing against Mr. Dempsey, I think he's a great individual.
Yeah.
How do we keep him from using more than, going to 66%?
it's your
Usage.
job.
Can you-
Well,
what do
because
you
it's
mean-
the way it's
what do you mean,
funded,
Bill?
the way
What's-
it's
what's
funded.
concerning?
Well, because the
Yeah.
person will not answer to Mike Dempsey
Well, that's
or
true.
Jim Freer. They will not answer to boards. I mean, the position, we structured it so that it sort of falls under me through you guys. So it will have to be, clearly spelled out as, your primary responsibility is and always will be planning. And I think we allocate 25 hours a week for the first year as planning, and 10 hours a week is on your CPA, your open space, your affordable housing. And I think we'll need to structure it that way, that,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't work in the first year and they say, you know what, we really need 35 straight hours on planning, it's just too much work, we revisit it in the future. But I think we can go in for a full-time person, and at least we know right off the bat, again, there's plenty of planning work, but at least we know there are specific tasks that they'll need to accomplish.
And who does
So
the
it's
position
quantifiable.
report to?
It's very quantifiable.
The position reports to the Board of Selectmen.
Right. And this is like the building inspector reports to them too, right? So, and that worked out really well, and he's networking with, other boards, and it's working out. So we're anticipating
If you put
you're
the
gonna make this
knowledgeable
magic
person
work
in the
again.
position, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I just know how persuasive he can be at times.
Right, but there's 5 of you, and,
Five of us aren't here every day, like he
right.
is.
Well, I mean, I guess, you could, initially Denise will set up what the tasks are, I imagine, and then I'm hopeful, that, I mean, you're hiring someone with the right background, they're gonna be able to show you how they're allocating their time so that it makes sense, right?
Well, what you want to
That's
do,
always
you
the
want,
hope.
you
Yeah.
do want to manage to it. You don't want to have this push me, pull me between, the planning department and the conservation.
Right.
Or you need to manage to it by saying, this is the job description, these are the percentages, and I think Denise will help
Right.
with that. And then when we get someone on board, the job description can be refined even further.
I mean,
It's a pretty, I don't know if you've actually ever read, it's a pretty thorough job description. So it would just need to be fine-tuned a little bit to make it full-time and to add in sort of the CPA component, but it pretty much spells out a pretty robust position for planning.
right,
And there is enough planning that they're not gonna be able to have that much capacity to do other work for other
But,
people.
but also bringing these other plans in-house, you know, our open space plan and our master plan, because we spent $100,000 on a master plan that we've never used. We threw away in my opinion, we threw away $100,000. Now, we're gonna bring somebody in who's going to be able to update these plans as time allows, right?
And the
that-
zoning bylaws, that should be a planner doing that.
And the thing.
Somebody to pull them all together.
Right, and the
Living
thing,
it.
the open space plan, by updating that, that makes it eligible for grants. So this is a money-getting situation for us by using that.
Right, as does
Yeah.
our affordable housing plan and, you know, all
Right.
those things that we're working with Merrimack Valley Planning to do.
So then you're gonna talk with Mike?
I'll talk with Mike and let him know that it's pretty much a go.
Okay.
And as long as it passes town meeting, then I will post, we have the job description, I'll post it right away for July 1 start date.
Do we need a vote on that, on our end, or no?
Yeah, but I think you guys will vote really formally, I mean, you can vote, you have a quorum, but my plan was to have you guys go through and vote the budget on Monday night.
Yeah,
Unless
where
you
we're
wanna vote now.
favorable, if you're favorable, this would be one area.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Makes sense.
good.
We just have to be able to explain it to people.
Right.
Because somebody will put up their hand and potentially say, why we can't have it all paid up by CPA?
Okay.
And to Bill's point, because we're using CPA money, that also can allow that position to write grants and attract money for CPA purposes.
All right.
Right,
Great concept.
yeah,
Okay, so
we did it.
that's that.
That's that.
So then I
Piece of
would
cake.
say, instead of,
Leaving early? No?
well, instead of going through.
I
the-
like this chairman. I like the way he thinks.
So you should all look at the warrants.
Oh, my, this
so-
is just money we have to transfer,
The,
blah, 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 blah. Oh,
the copy machine doesn't like the watermark, so you'll see that's why there's random letters scattered on. It's supposed to say
That's
draft
cute.
on all the pages, but, so the special town meeting warrant,
It says rat.
it says
too.
rat, yes.
That's great.
The
I
special
love
town
it.
meeting warrant is actually really easy. The first two articles on the special town meeting warrant are, we just need to revote things based on the Municipal Modernization Act that passed in 2016. 16. It requires us to just readopt some language that we previously voted. So those are just cleanup articles. Articles 3 and 4 are extending CPA projects that their timeline was coming due and the projects are not completed, so we're extending those. And then Article 5 is all of our transfers right now. So those I have to go through and fine tune. I want to talk to some of the departments where I'm taking money out, just so that they're aware of it, but,
Can we, is there any way we can put this in a table, or do we have to word it like this? I mean, it's like.
we don't have to word it like that. That's how it was when I got here, so.
Oh, I know, but I mean,
I can
just-
certainly,
No, Jim Scanlon, everything in our department has got to be one page and it has to have a table. It can't
yeah,
be
I
two
can certainly
pages.
change that. I mean, you'll see the
So
last one,
hard for
2,
people to
3,
read and understand, too.
Right, if we could put it into a table, if
Sure.
that's legal, if it's
Yeah,
all
we can do
right.
whatever we want.
Right, well, so,
How do we increase the selectmen stipend?
oh, yeah, that's not happening, guys.
No?
Yeah.
Increase it and vote on it.
Be
But
like
so,
Congress, I'm gonna vote myself a raise?
you can, but so that's just, the special town meeting warrant is pretty straightforward. The annual town meeting warrant, as I said, I've reformatted it a little bit, so you'll see on the first page, it actually goes through and groups all the articles together with the table of contents, and tells you what all the articles sort of are coming down the line. Kathy, I would like to include the finance committee's report in the actual warrant instead of producing a separate booklet this year. It should be the lead of the warrant itself.
We get to write our letter?
Yes, you can keep the same report, just we're gonna put it in here.
Okay.
I included this year's summary of revenues and expenditures, so people can see where our money on a quick snapshot is coming from and going to. And then we go into our articles.
Okay.
So look through them, there are some that, I know I sort of put in things like the weak chief, strong chief article. I don't know where you guys are still going with that.
Well, we're waiting for the fire department to give us a report on their assessment on
Right,
all
Okay.
things fire department and weak
Okay.
chief, strong chief.
but we may
Capital, I
not
think-
have that much time unless you choose to
Right.
withdraw it on town meeting
So-
floor.
So, also, I want to just let you know that when we went through the school budget, we didn't realize they were giving the capital committee a capital
Well,
budget.
and I'm gonna correct that, they never sent it to anybody.
They didn't send, okay, because we're like, we've never seen this page before.
No, I confirmed with the school
Okay.
and with
So,
Jeff Pappas, they've
moving
never seen
forward,
this.
there are some items in the Bagnell that would need to be addressed. I mean, not immediately, right now, but that's something we need to get on the capital schedule with.
I forwarded that to Jeff. They are meeting Thursday, and I said you should at least mention for your minutes that this all of a sudden came about, that these projects from Bagnell have now appeared.
Do we,
And I would argue that some of those, like their voice over IP system, we should not be covering the cost of their phone system.
Right.
So there are certain things that I would say are not our
We-
responsibility.
We were looking at the fluorine issue was the main focus, it seemed, yes, that there, evidently there might be some rooms that are gonna be not used until the fluorine is fixed.
CO.
Do you guys,
What?
the fluorine.
We're talking.
The flooring situation is, that's what I think there's about 4 rooms that are not gonna be used until this flooring
Right,
gets
their,
fixed. So they're
their
planning
numbers are
not to
down,
use them.
so they don't need those classrooms for
But
next
they
year.
do need to have the flooring replaced because of the tiles,
Right, they're popping up.
and they
Yes.
have.
Quickly, though, I do want to just, while everyone's here, so, the road commissioner article,
Yep,
What number is that, please?
well, it's, articles number 8 and 9, but
Okay.
right now they're sort of highlighted because, so I talked to town council. Unfortunately, even though we knew there needed to be 2 steps, there has to be 60 days between when town meeting approves this and when it can go onto an election ballot.
okay,
So we have 2 options.
okay.
We can put the warrant article on now and wait till next year's election and have the ballot question vote to affirm what town meeting votes.
Yeah,
I will tell you that, however, our current road commissioner does not plan at this point to finish out his term. He
Right.
was hoping to leave before his term is up.
okay,
That would create some problems if he chose to leave before we have this vote passed.
all right. what
So
else?
that's option 1. Option 2 would be, we could put on special legislation warrant article, which petitions the special legislation to make the position appointed versus elected. It actually would not then go to the ballot. Now, that might create some questions and concerns with the residents that we're skipping the resident component of this. What we could do, though, is put the special legislation question and a non-binding ballot question, which you'll see just for purposes of this discussion, I wrote on the ballot question at the end of this, non-binding, to get a sense of the town, and if the town overwhelmingly chose to support that, then we could then petition the courts for special legislation. If they voted it down, we could rethink that and not move forward with the special legislation.
I feel like the ballot vote, unless there's been information presented and explanation, people are not gonna vote for a change they don't understand. So I'd be reluctant to just
But you'd
throw-
have the same ballot question regardless, it just would be non-binding. So you would still move forward with everything we were currently planning to do, a town meeting question
Oh, okay,
and a
so-
ballot question the following week.
Okay,
It's just the town meeting article would be special legislation, not, and then the ballot question would be non-binding. You're just getting a sense if the residents support that approach.
right, so as long as there's at least half and half support, we go forward.
Well, that would be,
We
yes,
kinda
so,
know we have to go forward with this, we know it.
so you
Even
wouldn't
if it's less
need,
than half and half, that just means to me, we've got to educate the other half
See, that's
Right.
my point. I mean,
better
the
to
non-bind-
understand why the
Right.
town needs this.
Right, I mean.
well, the non-binding question, though, is, because it's special legislation, that would, so if the non-binding question passes, then the special legislation is more likely to affirm our decision and just put it through without any further issues.
the, special registration sometimes takes some time to get through too, right?
Yeah, but not that much time. I
No?
mean, it
Not
wouldn't
with
take
this
a
type of
year.
Not with this type of scenario.
Not with this type of
Majority
scenario.
basically-
So-
Especially if we had a non-binding question that the residents supported. They're gonna say,
Okay.
well, town meeting supported,
okay.
the residents supported it. It's just a different approach because
know.
we don't wanna wait another year to get the ballot
Right, when I
question.
was talking to the gentleman in West Newbury, the selectman, he said it almost took him 8 months for what they went through, but maybe it was a different scenario.
Right, theirs was much more in-depth because of the
Right.
position they were creating, but,
okay.
I mean, it's just an option. So
Right,
I
okay.
did talk to council. I
No.
told her to draft the special legislation
Okay.
article, so we
Yeah.
have that.
Okay.
But it cannot go forward on the ballot as anything other than non-binding if you wanted to do that this time around.
Non-binding special legislation.
Not, the special legislation of the town meeting is a binding vote,
Right.
but the ballot would help tell the
Enforce.
legislature that.
The town agrees to this.
Right, so I believe we should commit to an information night with some of these bigger issues at the town meeting. If we really want to make sure people are informed before they hit the ballot, not everybody goes to town meeting.
Not everybody watches these meetings.
I know,
Everybody
Well,
wants
it
a
would be
candidate.
discussed
But you
at
just-
candidates night.
but you're just trying to hit as many,
Yeah.
I think, I know it's one more thing to do, but I would think it would be, there might be a couple of things on the town meeting warrant that you'd want to just touch on at
I
the,
think that,
a short information session on the town meeting.
Can we
right?
put out little lawn signs, vote yes on Article 8?
Sure, why not, if you want to make a long.
I know that,
Well, we'd have to have a campaign, if you do that, you have to file a campaign finance report, right?
So-
Oh, no, you,
No.
no, we don't, do we? Ha, ha.
Well, we cannot do anything. The town, we cannot campaign.
The town itself cannot campaign, but every other individual is free to do that. And
But when we were
if you're not
petitioning,
collecting funds, then you don't have to.
Correct,
fill
there's a
out.
resident in Billerica that hand paints his own signs and hangs them up on the ballot questions and the town meeting articles that he supports and puts them all over town. You can do whatever, you can certainly do
Right.
that. You can
But-
post signs
well, the
anyway.
finance board, like, we could come up with our list of reasons why we support this.
Correct.
And we can make copies of that list, is okay to do. Do we have to do that on our own? Because it's a non-binding ballot?
Because it's about, yeah, you can't
You
persuade a
can't put
ballot
it on
question.
you can't put it on the website.
No, I wouldn't put it on the website, but can you hand them out at town meeting? I mean, we did that
You
for
could
the
probably
board
hand it
of,
out 50 yards away from town meeting.
I actually, because I did
Well,
that
no,
for
I
the
mean,
five-member board, I
you're the
handed out a
finance-
flyer.
The finance, you can weigh
For right
in,
or
I mean, the
wrong.
selectmen can weigh in on the reasons you feel it's, we just have to give equal time to someone who feels that why it's not necessary.
Of course.
how much time do we have from now till we have to really get serious on this?
A week?
Monday?
A week,
So, if you just take, if you
Well,
just take.
so,
yesterday.
not much, so it has to be, you all have to
A week.
have that voted by April 11th, because it has to be,
We're
I have to
fine.
post
We
it
got
on the
this
12th.
just about
So what I'm
done.
saying is, if you
We're
just,
close.
if you just take the topic of the strong chief, weak chief, we're trying to, right now, work with the fire department, what have you. I think if we made a decision that they weren't happy with, we're just gonna muddy the waters even further. And I know we're waiting for an answer back from them, but that's one thing that we really should keep an eye on. And then, like you talk about the road commissioner's position, I just think we need more conversation on both those subjects right there alone.
Yeah, I would say, so the strong chief, weak chief, if you put the warrant forward with that article, you could withdraw it on town meeting floor.
Okay.
So it could be
You have time
published,
to pull back.
and then that night, you could stand up and say, we actually wish to withdraw the question.
Right.
So you could do that. It still may cause some controversy between now and then, because
Right.
it's in here.
Because then the firemen, fire department might be saying, well, guess what? The selectmen are pushing forward with that
Right.
strong chief, weak chief fee, and they really didn't listen to us, and we're trying to mend our ways and get this all working together. That's why I think we gotta tread lightly.
Yep, and then the same goes with the road commissioner
Right.
position, so I
And the
just would
people in the
need to
town.
know, I need to know before really the 12th, which direction you're leaning, because I'm gonna have to have time to get the special legislation in here, so, we can talk about it more on Monday.
And I truly think that the town people, as far as that whole, road commissioner thing, they need to have the right PR on that. They do, and it was done before, it wasn't done with enough PR, and it should have been more PR.
Well, Bob needs to talk to it too.
I agree, and he has, I think,
And he said he'll go to candidates night, he'll
Right.
stand up at town meeting.
Right.
right.
Yeah, I mean, before, we had a three-member board of selectmen, and I think now that you have a wider breadth, you have five people making decisions to hire these key individuals. People can look on this board and see someone that they know or that they thinks rationally. You know, most people can look at one member of the board of selectmen and say, and the board of selectmen has had turnover since it's been five, so I think that the representation held now within the board of selectmen is great. You know.
You will see a general trend, at least from this finance committee, recommending over the next several years, changing elected positions to appointed. So this one is an easy one. Road commissioner. Bob is leaving. If we do it the old-fashioned way, after we say yes at town meeting, 60 days later, we have to wait before we can vote, so now we're gonna do the special legislation. So if anybody's hearing this, they understand what we're talking about. That means we go to the State House
Right.
and say, all right, listen, we've decided, we have a non-binding, overwhelming support over this. Go ahead and write a lot, so we can put this in, implement this quickly.
Right.
Do we
Fire
have-
department, I don't know, I don't have an opinion on that, other than I'm leaning towards, I would say, I wouldn't change that.
You know what, I mean, they may not
Law.
want to change the law, but.
I wouldn't change it.
Here's the thing they do not understand, is that that law isn't really helping them whatsoever, because if this board chooses to exercise its full authority, they're not going to be able to overspend the way it's been going on the past few years. That's not going to, that can't be allowed to continue. And there's going to have to be more discussion and cooperation, because you can't have hiring and firing on one hand going on, and the other hand is trying to manage the finances. Because that's a problem. You go ahead and you get rid of people, and then you have to go hire, then you have to train them, then you have to put the gear on them. That's financial. It's not
I
a
just-
well-written law at all. I mean, I won't ever stand up and say it's good for anybody. It's not good.
And if I can add.
But if they're dug in on it, like they think it's gonna save something, and you don't wanna fight the fight, I fully understand that. I'm just saying, this law is a poorly written law. It doesn't help this town streamline and manage its finances whatsoever.
And if I can just reiterate what Bill had said, Bill Dunn, that, we want to take our time, for example, on the chief's position, so. And I know that now I'm not speaking for the board, a slight deviation here. I would be certainly in favor of probably leaving the law the way it is, and using that same time period of evaluating the whole department, fire chief department and so forth, to try to make a quick change now in the law, I think is disruptive.
It is, 100%.
I
100%.
don't,
And-
we're not giving the fire department.
And like I said a few minutes
Yeah,
ago,
wait a
it's
year.
gonna be 8 months before we can get a chief on board.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be so close to another budget season, and then we can discuss that strong chief, weak chief thing
Yeah.
later on
So,
again.
yeah, bring it
You know what I'm
back.
trying to say? So
That's
until we
fine.
mend ways between the selectmen and the
Yeah.
fire department, that's what we need to,
Give
we
them
need to
time to
mend our
weigh-
ways.
give them time to weigh
And
in.
get that communication going again. And
Because
that's
you
what
don't
we
know,
need.
you don't know what could happen. We might end up with a different fire chief department that,
Can I just
excuse me,
weigh in?
position that works really well with the current law.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't make an assumption that changing the law is gonna,
I don't feel like there's a mending of ways that has to happen here. I think that
Well,
we've been through a really difficult period, and I know that you all, I've read the executive session minutes, and I saw what you guys went through settling this affair, and it wasn't easy, and I know you can't talk about it, but, I served on the Board of Selectmen, and I can't imagine what you went through trying to protect this town and bring us out intact, and I appreciate that you put the time in to come up with a
I shouldn't say-
considered agreement that protects the town and the taxpayers, and
I-
I appreciate that, and I think, pick your battles, by all means, pick your battles, and I think if I had to prioritize, I want the highway position the most to change.
that's a priority.
I shouldn't say
It's a big
mend our
priority.
ways, I should say better communication between the selectmen and the fire department. That's what I should say.
You'll know,
guys
you'll,
do all
Where did
right.
that communication, again, what is that communication predicated from? It was predicated from this board and the former chief.
Right.
There was,
A breakdown.
well, I think there's a breakdown in communication. I don't think the message actually got through to the rank and file of the fire department that
Right.
we are genuinely concerned with their health, wealth, and safety.
Right.
But we also have, limitations
Right.
on what we can spend, and that seemed to be the biggest disconnect between the board and the former chief, that we couldn't get on the same page there. That there was no mutual understanding of the budget as our mutual enemy, not each other.
Mike, I don't know if we have time Monday night to talk about these amongst our board, a few of these topics. I don't know if you have time or not.
Gonna have
You
to.
have to.
Yeah,
My-
I mean,
my recommendation.
something's gonna have to take place,
What?
because I think we really need to talk more about it.
My recommendation, which really dovetails with what Kathy said, if you can commit some time, I realize it's an important week, if you can commit some time to study that document and really have a serious discussion and kind of a wrap-up by Monday if you can.
Yeah. I
You
think
guys
that'll
could
be-
possibly wrap it up by Monday, giving Denise plenty of time to do what she needs to do.
Yeah, I think we'll dedicate some time to it on Monday, and we should make sure that Lisa and Ed get these,
Yeah, ASAP.
yeah, so they have some time to look them over between now and Monday.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Well, Ed's away, but
And I want it all. Why wait? I'm not-
Right, and it's hard without, like I said, our new fire chief is not here yet, so it's hard to know these complicated things. So I did reach out to this company and ask that president to give us as much information and other documents, because I mean, there's a line in here about our neighboring West Newbury town has similar issues, we could work with them. And then this line caught my interest, I'm gonna say it incorrectly, but let me try again. Connectivity, which is what microwave is about, right? It says a connectivity can be done through fiber, microwave, or leased connectivity from various private sources. And I don't know quite what that means, but I'm assuming it means like if we had the fiber optics in town, then we wouldn't need the microwave, if I'm understanding the
Yeah, we
terminology.
don't have fiber optics.
Right, but still, they always say we're supposed to be on the page to get it. And then there's
We
the
are?
ability, that's what Comcast is always saying whenever I
No
ask
way,
them.
Comcast
But-
doesn't have fiber optics, it's
Come back,
fiber.
it's
Oh, who is
Verizon.
it? Verizon, okay, that's the one, Verizon, whoever.
They're never
But
coming
they're
there,
not-
there's
then-
not big enough base. for them
Okay,
to come here.
so then they have the various private sources. I mean, I just don't know, like, which is the way you want to position this town to be ready for the next. We've done nothing with that the tower up there hasn't been done over in what, 30 years or more? I mean, more than that probably. Since I've been in town that I'm aware of. I know they're always going up there and patching it and stuff. But that's everybody's equipment up there. Not just the fire department, that's everybody, right? That shed up at the water tower. That's everybody, and so this affects the town in a really big way, this decision. And I'd like to make sure that we understand it reasonably well enough to be able to say if it's a good idea or not.
Right, but I think that proposal is fire department specific. I don't think the antenna benefits the other departments because they're on separate radio systems.
Correct.
Right.
The-
And we've already gone
no,
really
that
far
sh-
down this road with
The
this current
shed
system.
is all of them,
Really?
and the monitoring of that is all of them. So the computer that monitors it 24/7 needs to be in a place staffed 24/7. The Dell computer that's in the bed. Shouldn't that be in the dispatch?
But I think that's just specific to the fire department.
No, it monitors the moisture and everything in that. Don't call it at that shed, I don't know what to call it. This is, have you seen this thing? It's up on the water tower, off Kings Way.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, so that everybody's equipment's
But I
in
mean, I
there.
haven't never been in there.
Okay, well, I think you should go look probably before we,
But I think they're
Put
right.
down
I think that's
150
just,
grand.
that's just fire. That has nothing to do with police.
Police or
they're
highway.
they're in that.
But they're on different systems in there.
Yeah, but in that, when you're monitoring in there, wouldn't you monitor all, I mean, this is what I'm saying, what do you, how
I
can?
think they're monitoring the radio system.
But that's,
The
okay.
tower, you're
I
talking
could
about
be
the
wrong, but
tower.
I'm thinking this is all. This is
No,
that-
I don't think so.
Well,
I think the
'Cause some of the
police are on
problems-
different.
Yeah, is the fire is on the
The shel-
VH.
Yeah, they talk about the
and
antenna and the
The
repeaters and
police
all
are on
that
the
stuff, yeah.
UHF.
That's what I'm talking about in the proposal. That's the proposal.
Yeah, the microwave thing is just the fire department.
I don't know. I don't know that you're looking at the whole picture. That's my concern. And I don't know that I understand it well enough to tell you what you're not looking at, but I'm looking at the wording here, and I'm looking at the numbers here, and the thing that concerned me is the numbers repeat, like the exact amounts. It's so weird. That's very unusual if you're really doing bids on specific sites, like down to the penny, almost as if the bid was chopped up into pieces. Did you
Right.
look at the numbers?
So Kathy's
Yes, but I'm
referring
not sure
to,
what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
but
they're like
Kathy,
down
what
to
you're
the penny.
referring to on that is really just monitoring the environment inside the shed.
No, but the bids themselves are the exact same for South Station repeater as for the one up at the thing, and that just seems like
Well, it would be, it's the same
unusual.
equipment.
Well, except that they're talking about all these cables and things that are up there, and I didn't know that
Who would,
I don't know. It
Kathy,
just-
who would handle that? When, if the money was appropriated, who would
Well,
handle?
this company is
The
the one
fire
that
chief.
does the work. Yeah. I know, we don't have the fire chief, that's the problem. I mean, I'm not saying I
Kathy,
understand this, but
Kathy.
I'm looking at patterns of numbers, and I'm going, I don't know, what does that
Kathy,
mean?
what's gonna happen
What?
is we're hopefully gonna get a fire chief in here that's gonna take that, we're gonna maybe.
Oh, okay, so you're gonna wait. maybe.
Right. Well, I'm not
Okay.
saying that. I'm just
No,
saying,
I
I'm
think
just
you might
saying,
need to do
all I'm
something
saying
like
is a
this.
fire chief would be the one that would take care of that proposal and make sure he
And
put it
work
out the
with
right
the
way.
police chief with it too, right? Because both emergency services, we don't want anything going wrong with that, either side of it. I mean, and they're all in the same building, and I want to make sure that if we put them, this is a big investment for the town, and,
Right, they're all in the same building, but they're all separate. So for what this states
They're
is
separate,
they
but
want to
can-
ground, so the electrical's not grounded. And then they want to put a monitoring system to protect it against, or to monitor water, moisture, temperature
in that
controls.
shed.
And damaging environmental issues, yes, so that would affect all of the different,
Yeah. So
but
when-
the equipment still is individual
No,
up
I
there.
know, but that computer, wouldn't you want that in like the dispatch where there's someone on duty all the time to see if something goes wrong, right?
Well, I think it
That's a
has to be
monitor.
there where the equipment is that it's
Of the
monitoring,
tower.
and then it says it talks through either IP or
Oh, okay, so
fiber.
it could talk to dispatch then. Okay, I'm just trying to figure this out. I was trying to.
Dispatch is the only
That's all we
the
have.
hub that can talk to two separate systems
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Right.
Correct, because they're on two separate
VHF,
systems,
Everything
they
that
are
comes
the only
down
ones,
off
and
that
that's what
tower
was
goes
explained.
down
But they
into
also
that
have to
shed
relay
and gets
information.
taken out of that
That was
shed,
explained
and it
to
gets
us
sent
by
out.
Chief
So
Gillen
are you
last week.
thinking that this
That
might be,
The dispatch is actually
wait a
on.
little bit?
Yeah.
Because we do, we know this is old. Everybody knows this equipment is all old up there.
Everybody knows it's old, it's where do we prioritize, that's,
Well, it's important,
oh, it is important.
and it was on the capital plan for a while, so it's something that needs to be looked at, but it seems like we need to make sure.
How can we,
But this
I
is
mean-
phase 3 of phase 4 of 5 with these, oh, yeah.
This is the big thing, though. This is not the handrail. This is the whole structure. This
So,
is-
not
The
to,
capital improvement committee is reconvening on Thursday, because
Yeah.
they're gonna revote that number. They're gonna take into consideration the microwave piece, because apparently, Chief Lay said it was not needed. And then when Assistant Chief Rashala went in, he said it was needed. So
Okay.
they're actually having more discussions about what their final number is going to be on that item,
when are they meeting?
Thursday.
I feel like we're just chasing so many things right now, without knowing specifically that we've got
So-
it right.
me, sitting here to make us so we can go home,
Yes.
I say that the new chief, or a chief, would be the person that would handle that for his department, and the police chief would handle it for his, and we'll hopefully get the right people in to talk to them, and then we'd know where to go.
Right, but all I would say to that is, we have an acting chief right now.
Right. So I hope he would take care of that. And if he comes back, and I can say, I sat in that meeting, and out of that meeting, I took out of that meeting that we were looking for a bigger number than what was presented. I think this
3
board
years
kind of
ago.
gave that insinuation, let's go for the bigger number, because let's get the right equipment in the right place.
We-
He also offered to come in and speak with us, this guy, the president guy.
So what, and I've worked with Kathy on this, we've talked about this, the discomfort of the finance committee, and I think Kathy's articulated it very well, is that we have been presented with this proposal that has initially cleared the capital committee, but it doesn't meet the finance committee's minimum audit level evaluation, for lack of, we're not auditors, but we have to get to a level where we want to be able to go to the town meeting, go to the Board of Selectmen and say, we're going to approve this purchase and that investment, because we did our due diligence. The document is not in a condition that we can approve,
I agree.
because there's number patterns that
And I've
don't
said
match
that
up,
in the
for
past.
example.
I mean, I know I'm critical.
There's
People think I'm-
language, number
This is
patterns,
just
things
a
that don't.
page
People
of it,
think
but
I'm critical
I have
of the
it on my
capital, and
computer.
I'm not. It's just that if you put
Where's
a
the one that
package in
ends
front of
in
capital,
02? This is
and you're
not
saying
that
you're
page.
looking for a 5-ton truck, what are we getting rid of? How many miles run it, et cetera, you know what I mean? All the more information is the best
I
thing.
don't have the whole thing.
Yeah.
So now, when it goes before the finance, it goes before this board, we have all the information. And I think they're getting better at that. I think they're working on all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Before
But-
last week's meeting.
I mean, the consensus of this particular proposal was send it back for reworking,
I think
because we can't approve it in its current condition.
Right.
right, and that's why I thought that if you could give us, this is 2015, this document, get us an update, get us.
So it's going back now,
try-
they're working on
like,
it again,
I'd
right?
like the write-up to tie to this specifically, do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm trying to read this on a
Did
finance
they give you a
board.
time frame for when they're gonna give you?
I thought he said a couple of days, when he sent me an email. I just said, we're trying to
Mike.
make sense of this, and
So when we were in our meeting, right, it was the
Here's the
micro,
numbers.
some
Look.
microwave piece of it
Yeah.
that they
Peter,
There
thought,
was the antenna and
I
then the
wrote him,
microwave.
Right.
if you
And
can
what
read
they
my
were saying
hand
was
scratch, this is what I'm
that,
talking
all
about.
that piece, they couldn't
Numbers.
get the right
They couldn't get into buildings.
Buildings.
Radio frequency.
One building particularly,
They just.
which
Yes.
kind of makes people understand why we
I
really
know
should get
it's
in
up
that
to
one
150,000,
particular
I
building.
checked that.
But I also think they said that even with that, they still
Yeah.
couldn't communicate in that building.
It's just
It wasn't
weird that
guaranteed.
it's down to
Correct.
100.
Right, right, and
And
that's
this
where I was
still
just
isn't
gonna
gonna
go with
solve
that.
all their problems, and that's what, I know Mike's concern was, is let them come out here and show us what this is gonna do and where the
Right.
radios are gonna work, because
Right.
we could spend 150,000, they still can't communicate.
And that's my point.
And we won't know that until
Yes.
they either replace all the equipment, and then we say, okay, so it wasn't the equipment that's not working.
And if you recall, they wanted $5,000 to do that
Assessments.
study, and I
Study.
said,
But
if we're
you-
gonna spend 150,
Right.
somebody better do it
But
for
you don't
nothing,
know
or
what
we
this-
would,
this
should find someone
company
else.
Might
Bill,
be
what I
willing
was
to
saying
just
that
come and
night
talk
was,
to
I was
them,
trying
though,
to say
start
is,
the ball rolling.
if you wanna sell me a $150,000 system, why don't you come out here, put some pieces, and
Prove
make
it
sure it
works.
works?
Right, and I do think they would. We do a lot of work with Allcom. That's with
Yeah.
police's radios, that's the highway
And
radios.
that's what
So,
Kirk said they were gonna
yeah,
go back
so
to
they
Allcom.
very well may come out and
But
waive
don't
that
you wanna
$5,000
speak to them?
study. But
Don't you want to talk to
Oh,
them?
definitely, I mean, this is a
Because he
big
said he'd
purchase.
be willing to come in and speak with us, or send somebody in. I think,
I think along with that assessment and.
I don't know
come
that
and
we'll
talk
meet the annual town meeting in time, because there's a lot to this.
to us. Right.
Right?
Yeah, like
I
I
just
said,
wanna make sure the system's gonna work. If you spend that kind of money, I wanna make sure it penetrates those windows that they talked about. And I don't wanna rush it. I'd rather put it off than rush it. That's just me.
If I spend $5, I wanna make sure that the $5 I spent, I bought something that it's supposed to
You
work the
want your
way I
value.
was.
Right.
I want my value, and that's
Yeah.
simple as that.
so understand the consensus of the committee. This is really big, it's really important. We're feeling the pressure to get it done early, but in its current condition, we can't
I don't think you should feel
approve
pressure. I
it.
think you should do what you guys think is
We
right.
can't approve it, and we are hoping for sending it back for a rework.
Okay.
But if
it.
you don't feel comfortable, then
Well,
that's
we're
what you
telling
should say, and,
Well, here it is, we're telling you.
Need
All
more
right, it's,
information.
it's 8:45. Let's
Let's
call this meeting. and
Yeah, we've done a lot of good work. We deserve
Go
a pat
home
on the
and have a
back.
beer.
Thank you for meeting with
Yeah,
us.
this is great. We
We
should
know
do
you
this
guys
more.
are really
So, the meeting's
So-
adjourned at 8:45.
busy. That's it, we did it.
Bill O'Neill, you made the motion.
But
Yep.
Make a motion,
second
Bill.
it.
make a
Second.
motion, we,
I love the Bill and Bill, the
Bill?
Bill times
Second,
two.
yeah.
what's
All
like I
in
said
favor?
last?
Well, thank you guys for coming in and meeting with
Yeah.
us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, appreciate getting
said
your
last week,
feedback
Joe.
on things.